Chapter 11. Oh. Making a promise handing over the clothes to Yi Xiao, she spoke softly. Please deliver these clothes to King Cheng's mansion for me. Upon seeing the clothes in her hand, a twinkle appeared in Yi Xiao's eyes, as if recalling something. A smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. Yes, one will go at once, she said. Upon finishing her sentence, Yi Xiao took the clothes from Jiang Paihuan's hands and swiftly left the plum garden. After leaving the plum garden, Yi Xiao headed straight to King Cheng's mansion. In the front courtyard of King Cheng's mansion, who's there? At the sound, Han Feng immediately unsheathed his long sword. Yi Xiao, why are you here? Spotting the person before him, Han Feng showed a hint of surprise and quickly sheathed his sword. Yi Xiao gave him a cool glance before coldly speaking. Eldest Miss asked me to find King Cheng. Where's His Highness? The master hasn't woken up yet. What does your lady want? Why don't you tell me first and Your Highness. Before Han Feng could finish his sentence, a door beside them opened. Seeing Xiao Nani standing at the doorway, Yi Xiao hurriedly stepped forward. Upon seeing Yi Xiao, Xiao Nani immediately asked, Has something happened to Huan Er? As he spoke, a hint of worry appeared in his eyes. Seeing his expression, Yi Xiao quickly responded, Eldest Miss is fine. I came here because Eldest Miss instructed me to deliver something to your Highness. As she spoke, Yi Xiao offered the clothes in her hands. Accepting the clothes from Yi Xiao, Xiao Nani immediately unfolded them. Upon seeing the clothes, Xiao Nanya's eyes were filled with delight. Looking at Yi Xiao, he asked in a low voice, Did Huan Er make these? Eldest Miss made them last night, staying up late to do so. Upon hearing Yi Xiao's words, the joy in Xiao Nanya's eyes deepened. However, knowing that Jiang Peihuan had spent the entire night making the clothes, a hint of worry also appeared in his eyes. Looking at Yi Xiao, he asked anxiously, Huan Er didn't sleep all night? Recalling the light in Jiang Paihuan's room that had been on the entire night, Yi Xiao nodded. Just as she was about to speak, she saw Xiao Nani swiftly leave. Looking in the direction he left, she realized he was heading towards the general's mansion. It was already daytime, but Xiao Nani still habitually climbed over the wall into the plum garden. Arriving at Jiang Paihuan's room, Xiao Nani unconsciously lightened his steps, carefully pushing open the door. He immediately spotted Jiang Peihuan lying on the bed. Perhaps she was truly exhausted. Even as Xiao Nani approached, Jiang Peihuan didn't wake up. Having returned to life, Jiang Paihuan's sleep was usually restless. However, the familiar scent of Xiao Nani seemed to keep her undisturbed. Xiao Nani sat quietly by the bed, making no noise and simply watching the person on it. During this time, Yu Er and Lu Er tried to approach the room, but they were sent away by Xiao Nani. The two maidservants of the plum garden had grown accustomed to seeing Xiao Nani in Jiang Peihuan's room, so they quietly withdrew. Uninterrupted, Jiang Peihuan slept straight through to noon. She hadn't slept this long in a long time. When she opened her eyes, she was still a bit groggy, but quickly, Jiang Peihuan's sleepiness vanished. Hearing the approaching footsteps, Jiang Peihuan grabbed her whip and swung it. Huan Er, your reflexes upon waking are truly surprising. Xiao Nani caught Jiang Peihuan's whip with one hand and held a teacup in the other, not spilling a drop. Seeing Xiao Nani let go of the whip and approach, Jiang Peihuan showed a hint of surprise. Why are you in my room? I came to thank you. As he spoke, Xiao Nani handed her the teacup. Having slept for so long, Jiang Peihuan was indeed thirsty. Accepting the cup, she drained the contents in one go. Would you like more? Naturally taking the empty cup from her, Xiao Nani asked softly. Jiang Peihuan shook her head. Setting the teacup aside, Xiao Nani then took out the clothes. In front of Jiang Peihuan, he unbuttoned his own robe. Seeing his actions, Jiang Peihuan was stunned for a moment. After a few seconds, she quickly turned her gaze away and quietly asked, What are you doing? Xiao Nani didn't respond, but after removing his robe, he directly put on the one made by Jiang Peihuan. Huan Er, look. Hearing Xiao Nanya's voice, Jiang Peihuan lifted her head. The navy blue robe worn by him enhanced his noble demeanor, making him appear even more aloof. The silver border and hidden patterns added an extra touch of elegance. Does it look good? Xiao Nani turned a full circle in front of Jiang Peihuan with a smile on his face, then asked, appearing like a child. Your Highness came over just to ask me if this dress looks good?
Yes.
Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's response, Xiao Nani nodded, and then earnestly said, this outfit was made by you, Huan Heir. So naturally, you should be the first to see me wear it. Huan Heir, you still haven't answered my question. Do I look good in this outfit?
Yes.
No matter what Xiao Nani wears, with his handsome face, he can't look ugly. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's response, disappointment flashed in Xiao Nani's eyes. Huan Heir, your reaction is a bit of a letdown. Perhaps realizing that her reaction was somewhat perfunctory, Jiang Peihuan added 2 more words, you look good. Upon hearing this, a smile lit up Xiao Nani's eyes. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, he laughed and said, one thinks so too. However, as soon as his words were out, he carefully removed the outfit, folding it neatly. Seeing his actions, a look of confusion crossed Jiang Peihuan's face. Your Highness, you don't like the color? No, one like it very much. Then, why did your Highness take it off? This outfit was made by Huan Heir's own hands. It's very precious. I want to preserve it carefully. How could one casually wear such a valuable item and risk damaging it? Clothes are meant to be worn, Your Highness. Wear it without worries. If it gets damaged, one can make a new one for you. Hearing Xiao Nani's words, Jiang Peihuan responded reflexively, but immediately regretted her words. However, satisfaction filled Xiao Nani's eyes when he heard her words. If that's the case, then I look forward to Huan Heir's handmade clothes. As he spoke, he had already put on the outfit he had just folded neatly. Knock, knock, miss, the third madam asks for you. At this point, a knock came from the door, followed by Yu Heir's voice. Upon hearing Yu Heir's voice, Jiang Peihuan responded, looking towards the door, tell my third aunt that I will be right there. The sound of footsteps gradually faded from the door. Chapter 111. A gift, Your Highness. My third aunt is looking for me. What about you? You go to third, madam. I am going back to the mansion. With that, Xiao Nani walked towards the door. However, as he reached the entrance, he paused, turned to look at Jiang Peihuan, and chuckled softly, Huan Heir, don't forget to make me a new outfit. Watching the man leave, Jiang Peihuan suddenly felt a hint of regret. Master, are we going back to the mansion now? Xiao Nani had just come out of Jiang Peihuan's room when Han Feng descended from a tree. Instead of answering Han Feng's question, Xiao Nani looked at him and asked, what do you think of this outfit I'm wearing? Hearing Xiao Nani's question, Han Feng carefully examined his master's coat, then softly said, Master, you look very handsome in this coat. Not bad, you have good taste. The sword you like, go get it yourself later. Thank you, Master. Thank you. Mississippi Han Feng silently added the last part in his heart. He had had his eye on that ancient sword for a long time, but Xiao Nani had shown no signs of letting go of it. Han Feng had prepared himself for the disappointment of not getting it, but then happiness came so unexpectedly. Han Feng was very grateful to Xiao Nani, but he knew that the person he should be most grateful to was Jiang Peihuan. After leaving the general's mansion, Xiao Nani mounted his horse, and after a moment of silence, he said, let's go to the palace. Hearing Xiao Nani's words, Han Feng felt a strange sympathy for Emperor Qi Ming. Looking at the time, it was almost Emperor Qi Ming's birthday. It was time for his master to pull another trick. At the general's mansion, in the elegant garden.
Third aunt.
Huan Heir, come and sit down quickly. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, Lu Xiu immediately responded. Sister Jiang, eldest Mississippi. After reaching the small garden, Jiang Peihuan noticed the Lu siblings. Nodding at them, Jiang Peihuan sat down on a chair nearby. As soon as she sat down, Lu Hao spoke up, Eldest Miss, the gift has been delivered to the Prince Qing's mansion. Oh, I wonder what rare treasure Cousin Lu has sent to the Prince Qing's mansion. It's not a rare treasure, it's a sea hawk. Hearing Lu Hao's words, a look of surprise flashed in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. The sea hawk is a symbol of good luck in many countries. Lu Hao's choice of gift was quite unusual. Cousin Lu, is there anything special about this sea hawk? I got the sea hawk by chance, and with a little more taming, it could have been rid of its wild nature. What would happen if the wild nature is not removed? It could easily hurt people. Hearing this, a smile curled up at the corner of Jiang Paihuan's mouth. Xiao Juanhao, this time, I am curious to see what you will do. In the Imperial Palace, on the main hall square. Imperial Father, this is a sea hawk I specially found to celebrate your birthday. Xiao Juanhao knelt before Emperor Qiming, looking at the sea hawk in the cage beside him, his eyes full of smiles. The sea hawk was rare and considered a sign of good luck. Which emperor wouldn't like lucky items? Because of Xiao Junhao's private fundraising from the officials, Emperor Qiming had never had a good impression of him. But now, looking at the sea hawk in the cage, Emperor Qiming's eyes were full of smiles. You are considerate. Has this sea hawk been tamed? In reply to Father, I have tamed it. Good. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, the smile in Emperor Qiming's eyes deepened. Pointing to the sea hawk, he said directly, in that case, let this sea hawk out. I haven't seen a sea hawk in a long time.
Yes.
Open the cage. The cage was carried by two young eunuchs. Hearing Xiao Junhao's words, they quickly opened the cage. The sea hawk inside instantly flew out, rushing into the sky. Seeing this, Emperor Qiming was completely satisfied. Good. This sea hawk is very robust. Xiao Juanhao got up and walked to Emperor Qiming, bending his right index finger and putting it to his lips. Then, he whistled, and the sea hawk circling in the sky immediately flew towards Xiao Juanhao. Prince Qing's falconry skills are amazing. He does have the air of the emperor when he was young. Many officials had come to the palace today, and they now watched the robust sea hawk, their praises for Xiao Juanhao overflowing. But then, the expressions on their faces quickly changed. Look, the sea hawk was indeed flying towards Xiao Juanhao, but it was charging towards Emperor Qiming. Seeing its outstretched claws, Wang Kun's face was full of panic. Guards, quick, protect the emperor. Emperor Qiming, seeing the sea hawk extended claws, also revealed a hint of panic. Witnessing this scene, Xiao Juanhao quickly made a sound. But this sound not only did not stop the sea hawk, but rather, it seemed to stimulate it, making its actions even more fierce. Your Majesty, be careful. Vile beast, you dare to hurt people. Just as the sea hawk claws were about to land on Emperor Qiming, Xiao Nani descended from the sky, standing directly in front of Emperor Qiming. He raised his hand to block, and the sea hawk claws immediately latched onto Xiao Nanyes's arm. Several deep gashes instantly appeared on Xiao Nanyes's arm. You're seeking death. Seeing his own sleeve torn apart in an instant, Xiao Nanyes's eyes were filled with fury. He pulled out a folding fan from his hand and swung it at the sea hawk. The sea hawk wings were directly slashed, and it let out a harsh, miserable cry, falling to the ground. But even so, the sea hawk still struggled to rush towards Emperor Qiming. Watching this scene, Xiao Nani raised his leg and kicked the sea hawk. Xiao Nani put a fair amount of force into this kick, and the sea hawk died on the spot. Imperial brother, are you all right?
I'm fine.
Emperor Qiming's face was still a bit pale, but hearing Xiao Nanyes's words, he shook his head. Seeing the wound on his arm, Emperor Qiming quickly turned to Wang Kuan. Quick, go and fetch the royal doctor.
Yes.
Upon hearing Emperor Qiming's command, Wang Kuan hastily ran off. Looking at the sea hawk lying motionless on the ground, Xiao Junhao's face was full of discomfort. After a moment of silence, he immediately knelt before Emperor Qiming. Imperial Father, your son deserves to die. Get out. Before Xiao Juanhao could finish his words, Emperor Qiming interrupted him coldly. Seeing that Emperor Qiming was furious, Xiao Nani whispered, Imperial brother, taming Seahawk is no easy task. Prince Qing must have been impatient. He didn't mean to you. If you can't do it, don't show off. Making a fool of yourself. Xiao Nani hadn't started speaking yet, but as soon as he did, Emperor Qiming's anger that had just subsided flared up again. Looking at Xiao Juanhao, Emperor Qiming said coldly, leave the palace immediately. Without my command, you are not allowed to enter the palace again. Chapter 112. Taking advantage to rob Imperial Father. Get lost. Xiao Juanhao tried to explain, but as soon as he began, Emperor Qi Ming rebuked him angrily. Prince Qing, it's better if you leave the palace now. Don't further infuriate the emperor. Xiao Nani, who was standing on the side, gently interjected after witnessing the scene. Upon hearing Xiao Nanya's words, Xiao Junhao's eyes filled with gloom. He dared not argue. Instead, he bowed to Emperor Qi Ming and left the palace. As he turned away, the kindness on Xiao Junhao's face vanished instantly, replaced by an intense gloom. He feared that he would not even be able to attend the emperor's birthday feast this time. Your Majesty, are you okay? Upon hearing the news, the empress rushed over, her eyes filled with concern for Emperor Qi Ming. Seeing the concern in the empress' eyes, Emperor Qi Ming grabbed her hand. Empress, don't worry, I'm fine. It's good to know that you are fine. I was scared to death when I heard the news. Imperial sister-in-law, rest assured. As long as I'm here, I will not let the emperor be in danger. The empress knew about the situation on her way here. Naturally, she also knew that it was Xiao Nani who had blocked for the emperor. Seeing the wound on Xiao Nanya's arm, the empress said softly, Nani, we are lucky to have you today. Where is the royal doctor? Why hasn't he arrived yet? Your Majesty, Nyang, the royal doctor has arrived. As soon as the empress finished speaking, she saw Wang Kuan rush over, followed by the chief of the Royal Doctor Institute. Greetings, Emperor. Greetings, Empress. Greetings. No need for formalities. Quickly check King Cheng's hand for injuries. Make sure no scars are left. Don't worry, Imperial sister-in-law. 1 a.m. a man. A few scars won't matter. Hearing this, the empress smiled and said nothing more. Then, the head of the institute checked Xiao Nanya's wound. Your Highness, your wound is deep. Don't get it wet for a few days, and take good care of it. The head himself applied medicine to Xiao Nani, and then bandaged the wound. The emperor and the empress quietly sat on the side. Seeing that Xiao Nanya's wound was well dressed, Emperor Qi Ming asked the chief, Is King Cheng's wound harmful to his health? Your Majesty, rest assured, Prince Cheng's martial arts are strong, and he is physically healthy. He will recover in no time. That's good to know. I told you I'm fine. There's no need for both of you to worry. Hearing the conversation between the emperor and the chief, Xiao Nani laughed and said, with an appearance of unconcern. The empress looked at Xiao Nanya's torn sleeve and told the maid beside her, Didn't you see that His Highness King Cheng's clothes are torn? Quickly prepare a new set for him. No need, Imperial sister-in-law. Hearing the empress' words, Xiao Nani quickly responded. Seeing Xiao Nanya's reaction, the empress looked puzzled. She glanced at his clothes, as if realizing something, and laughed. You seem to really cherish these clothes. They must be special, aren't they? What's special about these clothes? Emperor Qi Ming, upon hearing the conversation, involuntarily looked at Xiao Nanya's clothes, but couldn't find anything special. In contrast, Xiao Nanya's eyes softened at the words. Looking at the empress, he laughed softly. Please stop teasing me, imperial sister. All right. One won't tease you anymore. I still have matters to attend to, so we'll return to the Kuan-Ning Palace first. After saying this, the empress looked at Emperor Qi Ming, bowed, and spoke softly. Your Majesty, I shall take my leave now. They'll come to you for dinner tonight. Yes, they'll be waiting for your Majesty. After the empress left, Emperor Qi Ming turned to Xiao Nani. Those clothes are made by Miss Jiang from the Jiang family, aren't they? Emperor Qi Ming made an affirmative statement, and Xiao Nani didn't deny it. He simply nodded. Yes, indeed. They were made by Huan Air. It seems you are quite satisfied with Miss Jiang. As he said this, there was a complex look in Emperor Qi Ming's eyes. Xiao Nani, seemingly oblivious to the deep meaning in his eyes, just smiled and said, Huan Air comes from a family of warriors and has a straightforward personality. She suits my taste. Unlike other officials' daughters, who appear weak and helpless and just annoy me, you. Hearing Xiao Nanya's candid words, a hint of a smile appeared in Emperor Qi Ming's eyes. At this moment, Xiao Nani suddenly leaned towards Emperor Qi Ming, grinning, Imperial brother? Seeing the look in Xiao Nanya's eyes, Emperor Qi Ming directly shifted to the side. What do you want now? They'll have you know, You've already emptied my private collection. Imperial brother, considering the blood I've shed for you today, shouldn't you compensate me a little? I've heard that you've recently acquired quite a few treasures, Imperial brother. Xiao Nanya's eyes brightened as he spoke the last sentence. Are you a robber? Don't worry, Imperial brother. I'm just going to have a look. You can go about your business and leave me be. With that, Xiao Nani stood up and walked towards the back of the Qinqing palace. Watching his retreating figure, Emperor Qi Ming's face was full of fury, but his eyes lacked any sign of displeasure. Look at this kid. He's always robbing me. Shall I stop King Cheng, so he doesn't empty your private collection, Your Majesty? Wang Kuan, who was standing to the side, suggested tentatively after hearing Emperor Qi Ming's words. Emperor Qi Ming glanced at him, spoke indifferently. Let it be. They're just things. If he wants them, he can take them. Hearing Qi Ming Emperor's words, Wang Kuan twitched the corners of his mouth, but didn't say anything. Were they just things? Almost half of the items in King Cheng's residence were moved from Emperor Qi Ming's private collection. Master, Han Feng was waiting at the palace gate. As soon as he saw Xiao Nani coming out, he immediately approached. You're injured. Just a minor injury. Nothing to worry about. Xiao Nani mounted his horse and pointed to the boxes behind him. Take these to the plum garden.
Yes.
Han Feng had become numb to Xiao Nani sending things to Jiang Peihuan. Taking a few boxes from the eunuch, Han Feng also mounted his horse. After leaving the palace, Xiao Nani went straight to the plum garden. Jiang Peihuan was practicing calligraphy. She hadn't practiced in a while. Just as she picked up the brush, she heard familiar footsteps. Jiang Peihuan instinctively turned her head. When she was stunned, the ink from the brush dripped onto the paper, ruining her work. Putting down the brush, Jiang Peihuan looked at Xiao Nani with annoyance. Your Highness, do you consider this your own yard? Are you injured, Your Highness? Before Xiao Nani could speak, he saw Jiang Peihuan walking towards him. As she got closer, Jiang Peihuan smelled the strong scent of blood. Looking down, she saw his injured arm. Your Highness, were you attacked again? Chapter 113. A gift of well-being. It wasn't an assassination. What was it then? Facing Jiang Peihuan's puzzled expression, Xiao Nani briefly explained what happened in the palace, then continued. The royal doctor has examined my injury. It's nothing serious. It will heal in a few days. But this clothes, Huan Air, you may have to mend this. Your Highness still wants to wear these clothes? Of course, this was handmade by you. To me, it is more precious than any treasure. I came to ask you if this torn part can be mended. Upon hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan's eyes were full of surprise. She unconsciously looked into Xiao Nanya's eyes, but saw his eyes full of worry. There was a complex look in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. He's the brother of the emperor. He could have any kind of clothes he wanted. She thought so in her heart and then said, Your Highness, given your status, you can have any clothes you want. Why do you need to? It's not the same. The man softly interrupted Jiang Peihuan, then smiled and said, Although this outfit is not expensive, it was made with your heart, Huan Air. It is something that nothing else can compare to. His gaze was deep to begin with. When he looked at someone with focus, you could clearly see your reflection in his eyes. It was as if his eyes held only you. Jiang Peihuan couldn't bear to meet his gaze and quickly turned her eyes away. I will get the needle and thread. A moment later, Jiang Peihuan came back with the needle and thread, looked at Xiao Nani and gently said, Please take off your clothes. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani directly unbuttoned his shirt. Taking the shirt from his hands, Jiang Peihuan looked at the torn sleeve. The damaged area was very obvious. It couldn't be mended. So she took a matching silk thread and embroidered a few bamboo leaves over the torn part. While Jiang Peihuan was embroidering, Xiao Nani sat quietly by her side. Seeing her skillful needlework, Xiao Nani looked somewhat puzzled. He had asked Han Feng to investigate Jiang Peihuan, but she had never learned embroidery. In the previous incident at the moat, Huan Air, when did you learn to swim? Hiss. Xiao Nanya's words caused Jiang Peihuan's finger to tremble, and the needle directly pierced her fingertip. Let me see. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's gasp of pain, Xiao Nani quickly stepped forward, took her hand. and seeing the blood on her fingertip, the man's eyes showed a trace of remorse. Lowering his head, he took her finger into his mouth. The warm breath enveloped Jiang Paihuan's fingertip instantly, and she could even feel a bit of heat. Looking at the man standing in front of her, Jiang Paihuan's eyes were filled with surprise. Feeling the taste of blood disappearing, he let go of her hand. Jiang Peihuan quickly covered her hand with a handkerchief. "It's my fault. I shouldn't have asked." Hearing his words, Jiang Paihuan's eyelids fluttered. She had thought that no one noticed she could swim at that time. It turned out that Xiaonani had seen it. After thinking for a while, she said softly, "After one fell into the water last time, one specifically learned." Unwilling to continue the topic, Xiaonani brought up the matter of Xiao Junhao's gift. This time, he probably won't have time to trouble the Liu family again.
No.
Looking at Xiaonani, Jiang Peihuan explained the origin of the Seahawk and then continued, "This Seahawk is a gift I specifically prepared for Prince Qing through my cousin from the Liu family." Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiaonani raised an eyebrow. Looking at Jiang Peihuan, the man said softly with a smile, "Huan heir, it seems that you really dislike him." "Yes, one detests Prince Qing deeply." Seeing the confusion deepen in Xiaonani's eyes, Jiang Peihuan changed the subject, picked up the clothes in her hand, and said to the man in front of her, "I have mended the clothes. Do you think they're suitable?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Xiaonani didn't continue the topic, but put on the clothes. Looking at the unique embroidery on his arm, the man smiled and said, "With Huan heir's mending, it looks even better than before." Jiang Peihuan smiled, not saying anything. "Are you practicing calligraphy?" As he spoke, Xiaonani walked towards Jiang Peihuan's desk. There were already several pieces of calligraphy on it. Xiaonani picked up a piece. It read, "Family harmony, prosperity in all things." Jiang Peihuan's handwriting was very bold. If it wasn't for the wet ink on it, Xiaonani would hardly believe this handwriting came from her hand. Because the characters didn't look like they were written by a teenager, but more like they were written by an elder who had lived for decades. "Is my handwriting unbearable to look at?" Seeing Xiaonani staring at her handwriting, Jiang Peihuan came over and joked. Hearing her words, Xiaonani laughed out loud. "If Huan heir's handwriting is unbearable, I wonder how many so-called calligraphers would be ashamed." As he spoke, Xiaonani picked up the paper and brushed beside him. He glanced at Jiang Peihuan and wrote a few characters on the paper. Jiang Peihuan lowered her gaze to the writing desk. Words sprang out from the paper. "To win one's heart, never depart till death." Xiaonani's handwriting was as sharp and powerful as himself, with distinct edges, yet it possessed an indescribable ease. Suddenly, Xiaonani handed the brush to Jiang Peihuan. Meeting her puzzled expression, he spoke softly, "Can you gift me a piece of your writing?" "What does your highness want me to write?" "Anything at your will." Hearing his words, Jiang Peihuan unconsciously looked at him. He wore a royal blue robe, his jet-black hair just tied up, eyes bright under his sharp eyebrows. After a moment's thought, Jiang Peihuan wrote down 2 characters on the paper, "Peace and health." 2 simple characters, yet they conveyed Jiang Peihuan's blessings. Upon seeing the 2 characters, Xiaonani showed surprise in his eyes, but then they were full of tenderness. He picked up the piece of paper and blew on it gently. "I won't let you down." Carrying the calligraphy, he walked outside, saying as he walked, "I'll leave the writing on the desk to you. One must return to my mansion now." Xiaonani's figure quickly disappeared at the door. Watching the closed door, Jiang Peihuan unconsciously looked at the writing on the desk. A hint of a smile appeared in her eyes, as if she had thought of something. Han Feng had been waiting in the tree for a long time, and if Xiaonani did not come out, he would really fall asleep. Hearing the sound, he quickly flew down from the tree. "Master, what is this?" Seeing the white paper in Xiaonani's hand, Han Feng was all surprised, but when he looked down, he saw the 2 characters, "Peace and health." This was not their master's handwriting. "Master, is this a gift from the eldest miss?"
Yes.
"Eldest miss' handwriting is really good. They'll also ask for a piece of her writing later. I wonder if she would be willing to give it." Chapter 114. Zhong Ye's premature birth. When Xiao Nani heard Han Feng's initial words, there was a hint of laughter in his eyes. But as the sentence ended, his smile vanished abruptly. With cold eyes, he glared at Han Feng and spoke in a chilling tone. You dare? Master, I was just saying. Faced with Xiao Nanye's gaze, Han Feng hastily corrected himself. During dinner, Zhang Peihuan took Yu Er to visit Shui Yin and Yinlin. Just as they were about to reach the entrance, they saw Shui Yin rushing out, looking upset. Mother, where are you going? Seeing Zhang Peihuan, Shui Yin's expression softened a little, but her tone was still hurried. Your Annie Zhong has gone into premature labor. I need to check on her. While speaking, Shui Yin continued walking. Suddenly, Zhang Peihuan remembered Zhong Ye's tragic fate in her previous life. Zhong family, though prestigious, has its roots in Qingzhou. The emperor, not trusting the Zhong family, decided to marry Zhong Yu, the legitimate daughter of the family, to the Yin family. Currently, Yin Yi, the emperor's uncle-in-law, was in charge of the Yin family. Zhong Yu was married to his young son, Yin Yang. Zhang Peihuan's maternal family was also in Qingzhou, and Shui Yin and Zhong Yu have been close since childhood. Remembering Zhong Ye's fate, Zhang Peihuan hurriedly caught up with Shui Yin. Mother, one will accompany you to the Yin family. Your Annie Zhong is giving birth. Huan Er, you better not go. Mother, have you forgotten? Yi Xiao, who's with me, is skilled in medicine. I can help if I come with you. Upon hearing this, Shui Yin hesitated for a moment before nodding. Okay, you come with me to the Yin family. Worried about Zhong Yu, both Shui Yin and Zhang Peihuan rode horses directly to the Yin residence. As they approached the gate, they saw a woman hurrying towards them. It was Dong Shui, Zhong Ye's maid. It was Zhong Ye's maid, Dong Shui. Madam, you're finally here. My lady can't hold on much longer. Take me to Ayu quickly. Hearing Dong Shui's words, Shui Yan's face changed, and she rushed inside. Following Dong Shui into the backyard, Zhang Peihuan noticed the lack of people coming and going. As they entered the room, Zhang Peihuan couldn't help but question, why isn't Lord Yin at home during such a crucial time for Annie Zhong's delivery?
Miss, you might not know, but the master has gone to the countryside with Madame Yen.
Where's the doctor? They've been sent for, but no one has come yet. My lady told me to fetch you no matter what, as one had no other choice. All right, let me go in and see you. Taking a few steps forward, Zhang Peihuan heard the painful groans from inside the room. She instantly understood that Zhong Ye's situation was very grim. Shui Yin pushed the door open and entered, followed by Zhang Peihuan. Shui Yin initially wanted to stop her, but Zhang Peihuan had already entered. Sister Yin, is that you? Lying on the bed, Zhong Yu was utterly exhausted. However, hearing the sound of the door opening, she still managed to call out. Shui Yin drew back the curtain and saw Zhong Ye's pale face. Her eyes immediately reddened. All you, it's me. Dong Shui, why did you go into labor prematurely? Mother, we shouldn't dwell on that now. Annie Zhong is in critical condition. Let's have Yi Xiao examine her first. Huan Er, you came too? Hearing Zhang Peihuan's voice, Zhong Yu managed to speak, despite her hoarse throat. Seeing her condition, Zhang Peihuan quickly approached her. Annie Zhong, my maid here is exceptional in medicine. She will ensure the safety of both you and the child. But you must hang in there. Zhong Yu had already believed she wouldn't survive the day, which is why she wanted to see Shui in one last time. Now, hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, a glimmer of hope appeared in her eyes, but she couldn't help saying, Huan Er, the child is only 7 months old. With such an early delivery, Auntie Zhong, there's an old saying, survival at 7 months, unlikely at 8. Trust me. Perhaps because Zhang Peihuan's tone was so determined, Zhong Ye's eyes suddenly sparkled. Grasping Zhang Peihuan's hand tightly, she whispered, All right, Huan Er, I trust you. 111 do as you say. When Zhong Yu held her hand, Zhang Peihuan quietly checked her pulse. Noticing that Zhong Ye's breath was very weak, she quickly turned to Dong Shui and said, Is there any ginseng, preferably 100-year-old ginseng? Cut some for Annie Zhong to take, and brew some ginseng water for her to drink. Yes, one will go get it right away. Eldest miss, Madame Yin's fetus is malpositioned. One need to massage her acupoints to adjust the position of the baby in her abdomen. But this massage is very painful, and am worried that Madame Yin may not be able to bear it. I can handle it. Start as soon as you can. Before Jiang Peihuan could respond to Yi Xiao's words, Zhong Yu gritted her teeth and said. Yi Xiao turned to Jiang Peihuan. Start as soon as the ginseng arrives. This ginseng was saved for my auntie to strengthen her body. How dare you take it privately? Give it back now. My madam is waiting for this ginseng to save her life. Get out of my way. There was a quarrel outside the door. Hearing this, Zhong Yu was filled with anger. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned. She quickly held Zhong Ye's shoulder. Annie Zhong, don't be upset. Calm down. That wretched servant. Zhong Yu breathed deeply, but her eyes were getting angrier. Seeing this, Shui Yin tightly held Zhong Ye's hand. You just focus on giving birth. One will handle the things outside. Huan Er, you take care of your Annie Zhong. Mother, don't worry. Seeing Jiang Peihuan nod, Shui Yin directly opened the curtain. Outside the door, Dong Shui was being blocked by several maids and family members. The leading maid looked triumphant, her gaze towards Dong Shui full of contempt. You are quite bold, making noise outside the main madam's door. Seeing Shui Yin coming out, Dong Shui's eyes brightened. Shui Yin coldly glanced at the leading maid, then turned to Dong Shui. Dong Shui, aren't you coming in? Madam Jiang, this is the Yin family. You. Who are you? Before the maid could finish her words, Shui Yin interrupted. Upon hearing Shui Yin's words, the lead maid replied with confidence. One am Madam Yan's personal maid. My name is Qiu Ju. Zhu Er. Hit her. Yes, madam. Although Zhu Er was Shui Yan's maid, she has been practicing martial arts with Shui Yan since childhood. Hearing Shui Yan's words, Zhu Er kicked Qiu Ju, who spat out a mouthful of blood. This was not the end. Zhu Er directly pulled out a dagger, and before Qiu Ju could react, her wrist felt intense pain. Zhu Er had cut her tendon. Ah! Qiu Ju screamed. Shui Yin, witnessing this scene, showed no reaction. Dong Shui, go in? Yes, madam. Chapter 115. Zhong Yes giving birth. At the sound of Shui Yan's voice, Dong Shui hurried into the room. Shui Yan, on the other hand, walked step by step to Qiu Ju. She looked down at the woman lying on the ground and spoke in a cold voice. Now, let's see if you can still stay by Madame Yan's side. You, how dare you? The fury in Qiu Ju's eyes was evident, but against Shui Yan's unfeeling gaze, she dared not say another word, only staring at Shui Yan in silence. Shui Yan did not look at Qiu Ju anymore, but instead turned to Zhu Er, speaking coldly. You watch them here. If anyone dares to go in, deal with them just like Qiu Ju? Yes, madam, Zhu Er replied. With that said, Shui Yan walked into the room. Jiang Peihuan had taken the ginger slice from Dong Shui's hand and brought it to Zhong Ye's mouth. She softly said, Annie Zhong, quickly, keep this ginger slice in your mouth. Exhausted, Zhong Yu still managed to open her mouth upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice. Once the ginger slice was placed in Zhong Ye's mouth, Jiang Peihuan turned to Yi Xiao. Start the acupuncture. Yi Xiao nodded and quickly took out silver needles. Her hands moved fast, and soon, Zhong Ye's body was covered with silver needles. Ah! The needles were causing intense pain for Zhong Yu. Jiang Peihuan quickly comforted her. Aunt Zhong, bear it a little longer. If you exhaust all your strength now, you won't have any energy left for giving birth. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Zhong Yu immediately clenched her teeth, not making a sound anymore. Miss, the baby has turned. Yi Xiao, who was keeping an eye on Zhong Ye's condition, called out as she saw the baby's position shift. She quickly removed all the needles from Zhong Ye's body. Eldest miss, the ginseng soup is ready, Dong Shui announced, having prepared the soup. As Dong Shui was about to give the soup to Zhong Yu, the entering Shui Yin stepped forward. Let me do it. Thank you, madam, Dong Shui softly said as she handed the bowl to Shui Yin. Sitting beside Zhong Ye's bed, Shui Yin held the soup bowl in one hand and helped Zhong Yu up with the other. You, quickly drink this ginseng soup. Zhong Yu drank all the soup, but as soon as she laid down, she felt a sharp pain in her belly followed by a warm rush. Miss, the birth canal is open, Annie Zhong. I can see the baby's head. Listen to my voice and push, okay? Zhong Yu mustered all her strength and nodded. All you, push harder. The baby is almost here, Shui Yin said with a firm grip on Zhong Ye's hand, her eyes welling up with tears. Annie Zhong, quickly. The baby is about to come out. Zhang Peihuan, who was experiencing childbirth for the first time, said with a touch of excitement in her eyes. Zhong Yu, who regained some energy after drinking the ginseng soup, took a deep breath and used all her remaining strength. Immediately after, she passed out. All you. Shui Yin looked at the unconscious Zhong Yu, a look of worry in her eyes. Eldest miss, the baby is born, announced Yi Xiao. Zhang Peihuan quickly stepped forward. The newborn, premature and tiny as a kitten, was quickly wrapped up in a blanket by Dong Shui. Dong Shui quickly stepped forward and wrapped the child in a blanket. Seeing that the baby was well taken care of, Shui Yin turned to Zhang Peihuan. Huan Er, let Yi Xiao take a look at your Aunt Zhong. Yi Xiao came forward at once. After carefully examining Zhong Yu, she said to Shui Yin, Madam, do not worry. Madam Zhong is fine. She's just tired. They'll have some medicine prepared, and she should wake up in an hour. Mother, let's step outside and let Annie Zhong rest, Zhang Peihuan suggested. Hearing this, Shui Yin slowly stood up, then looked at Dong Shui. Take good care of Ayu. Who dares to cause trouble in my Yin family? A piercing female voice came from outside before Shui Yin could finish. Upon hearing this, both Shui Yin and Zhang Peihuan instinctively looked at Dong Shui, who replied angrily, It's Madame Yin. She dares to come here? One didn't go to her, yet she dares to trouble Ayu. Does she really think the Zhong family is far away in Qingzhou, and Ayu can be bullied by anyone? Before Zhang Peihuan could react, Shui Yin pushed open the door and pulled out the whip at her waist. This was the first time Zhang Peihuan had seen her mother so angry. In her past life, Zhong Yu died along with her unborn child. At that time, Shui Yin had already suffered the pain of losing a child. Her best friend also tragically died. This greatly impacted Shui Yin. Now, these incidents hadn't happened yet. So wouldn't Shui Yin stand up for Zhong Yu? Although everyone knew that Shui Yin had been following Zhang Hong through his battles, they always thought she was gentle. Only Zhang Peihuan knew that her mother was never as mild as she appeared on the surface. Shui Yin, how dare you hit me, you, all? Zhang Peihuan had just stepped outside the door when she heard Madame Yan's horrible screams. Madame Yin was a daughter of the Yin family, but extremely beautiful. Since she married into the Yin family, she had been deeply loved by Yin Yang. Although Zhong Yu was the legitimate daughter of the Zhong family and Yin Yang's legal wife, Madame Yin never paid her any mind. However, now that Shui Yin's whip was lashing her own body, Madame Yin was somewhat scared. Especially when one of the whips landed directly on her face, Madame Yin screamed out in fright. My face, Shui Yin, it'll kill you. Madame Yin, although a concubine's daughter from the Yin family, had some martial arts training from a young age. But these skills seemed insignificant in Shui Yan's eyes. In a short while, Madame Yin lay on the ground, covered in injuries. Just then, footsteps could be heard from outside, followed by a man's voice that reached everyone's ears. Madame Zhang, this is my Yin family's place, not your Zhang's. You dare to cause chaos in my house. Do you really think my Yin family is scared of your Zhang family? The man who had arrived was none other than Yin Yang. Seeing him appear, Madame Yin quickly crawled up from the ground, clung to his arm with tearful eyes. My dear, you are finally back. If you didn't come back, I would have been beaten to death by Shui Yin. With me here, would she dare? Yin Yang, you dare protect her. Do you know she almost caused Zhong Yu and her child's deaths? What do you mean by that? Hearing Shui Yan's words, Yin Yang frowned and spoke with cold eyes. My dear, don't listen to her nonsense. The mistress' premature birth has nothing to do with me. I had already left for the country house with you. Before Shui Yin could say anything, Madame Yin couldn't help but interject. Hearing this, Shui Yin let out a cold laugh, slowly winding up the whip in her hand. She took 2 steps forward, and seeing her approach, Madame Yin instinctively stepped back 2 steps, retreating behind Yin Yang. Yin Yang, are you really confused or just pretending to be? Chapter 116. Bringing Zhong Yi back to the general's mansion, Shui Yin ignored Madame Yan's words, instead turning her gaze towards Yin Yang. Before, one thought you were just narrow-minded, but now, I see you are not just narrow-minded but extremely foolish. Even if you hold a grudge against Ayu, the child she carries is your flesh and blood. You just stood by and let them scheme against her? Are you still a man? If you truly detest Ayu, why not divorce her? Shui Yin, this is a matter of my Yin family. What does it have to do with you? On hearing Shui Yan's words, Yin Yang's eyes were full of anger, coupled with a hint of complexity. Jiang Peihuan stood silently on the side, listening to the conversation between Shui Yin and Yin Yang, with a hint of surprise in her eyes. Just as she was about to speak up, the door behind her opened. Turning her head, Jiang Peihuan saw Zhong Yu standing at the door, her face pale. She hurriedly went forward to support her. Annie Zhong, why have you come out? Huan am fine. Don't worry. Smiling at Jiang Peihuan, Zhong Yu turned her gaze towards the people in the courtyard. When her eyes fell on Yin Yang, the expression in her eyes cooled instantly. Yin Yang looked at Zhong Yu standing at the door, his eyes complex. Just as he was about to step forward, she had already drawn a dagger, aiming it directly at Madame Yin standing behind him. I don't care if you plot against me, but you shouldn't plot against the child in my womb. Having said that, Zhong Yu pointed her dagger directly at Madame Yan's heart. Zhong Yu, stop. Watching Zhong Yu lunging at her, Yin Yang extended his hand and pushed Zhong Yu away. Zhong Yu, with her mediocre martial arts skills and weakened from childbirth, was sent flying backward by Yin Yang's shove. Seeing this, Shui Yin hurriedly reached out to catch her. Seeing Zhong Yu being pushed away, there was a flash of worry in Yin Yang's eyes, but it quickly disappeared. However, Shui Yin, while supporting Zhong Yu, looked at Yin Yang with nothing but anger. She subconsciously wanted to retaliate, but was stopped by Zhong Yu. All you, Sister Yin, let me handle this myself. You. Shui Yin was somewhat skeptical, but Zhong Yu just smiled. However, her smile was tinged with a hint of desolation. Sister Yin, after so many years, it's time to put an end to it. This whole thing started because of me, so let me end it. There's just one thing one need to entrust to Sister Yin. Between us, you can say anything directly. I have named the child Zhong Yi. Yi was born prematurely. I see that the maid beside Huan is skilled in medicine. Here in the capital, one have no other close friends, so I entrust Yi to your care, Sister Yin. After a few months, when Yi's health has improved, one will take him back. Zhong Yu, how dare you give the child of my Yin family the surname Zhong? Hearing Zhong Yi's words, before Shui Yin could respond, Yin Yang, with his eyes dark, spoke up. But Zhong Yu didn't even look at him, instead turning to Jiang Peihuan. Huan you are still a young girl, and this is indeed a difficult situation for you. Annie Zhong, rest assured, one will take good care of Yi. Seeing Shui Yin nod at her, Jiang Peihuan quickly responded. Huan thank you. Having said this, Zhong Yu turned to Yin Yang. If it were not for Sister Yin and Huan's timely arrival today, Yi and I would already be dead. Today, 1 a.m. sending Yi to General Mansion. My decision is made. If you disagree, one will die in front of you. As she finished speaking, Zhong Yu pointed the dagger she had been holding at her own neck. You, okay, one agree. Seeing Zhong Yi's action, Yin Yang's eyes were filled with a furious redness. Hearing his words, Zhong Yu sighed in relief and called into the room. Dong Shui, bring Yi out. Madam. Dong Shui, who had been in the room, came out at the sound of Zhong Yi's voice, carrying Zhong Yi in her arms. Zhong Yu walked forward and gently touched the blanket covering Zhong Yi, then looked at Dong Shui and said, You stay with the young master and follow Sister Yin for now. Stay by the young master's side and take care of him. Yes, madam. Sister Yin, am sorry to trouble you. Seeing the look on Zhong Yi's face, Shui Yin wanted to say something, but in the end, she just sighed and said nothing. She only turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, Huan let's go. Upon hearing Shui Yin's words, Jiang Peihuan moved forward, made a respectful gesture to Zhong Yu, and then followed Shui Yin out. As they passed by Madame Yin, they heard the anger in her eyes. My dear, Shui Yin has beaten me like this. Are you just going to let them leave? Do you want to taste my whip again? At these words, Shui Yin turned her head to look at Madame Yin. Seeing the whip in Shui Yin's hand, Madame Yin quietly closed her mouth. Shui Yin left the inn house with Jiang Peihuan. After they got in the carriage, Shui Yin resumed her usual demeanor, but her eyes were full of worry. Jiang Peihuan poured a cup of tea for Shui Yin, handed it to her, and then gently asked, "Mother, is there a misunderstanding between Annie Zhong and Lord Yin?" "That's something from many years ago." Jiang Peihuan was just guessing, but from Shui Yan's words, she realized there was some truth to it. From Shui Yan's narrative, Jiang Peihuan learned about the story between Yin Yang and Zhong Yu. Although the marriage between the Yin families and Zhong families was decreed by Emperor Qiming, after Yin Yang met Zhong Yu in Qingzhou, he fell for her. But by then, Zhong Yu already had someone in her heart. Somehow, this news reached Yin Yang. Because of this, even though Zhong Yu married into the Yin family, Yin Yang made things difficult for her. After hearing the story of Yin Yang and Zhong Yu from Shui Yin, there was a hint of surprise in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Thinking of Yin Yang's expression when looking at Zhong Yu, she couldn't help but say, "Mother, I feel Lord Yin may still have feelings for Annie Zhong. Yin Yang indeed has feelings for your Auntie Yu. But after this incident, much of it has faded away." After saying this, Shui Yin remained silent, and Jiang Peihuan didn't ask anymore. An hour later, Shui Yin returned to the general's mansion with Jiang Peihuan. "Huan, this child, mother, let him stay in my garden. Yi Xiao is proficient in medicine. If anything happens, she can take care of it nearby." "All right, then let's go with your arrangement. If anything happens, send someone to find me in Yinlin." "I understand, mother." After parting with Shui Yin, Jiang Peihuan took Zhong Yi directly to her plum garden. "Eldest miss, who is this?" When Yu heard the voice, she came out from the house. Seeing Dong Shui and the child in her arms, her eyes were full of confusion. "This is the young master of the Yin family, Yu. Go clear out the room next to mine." Chapter 117. Peeing on Xiao Nani, yes, eldest Mississippi. "Dong Shui, you go with Yu and tidy up. From now on, you will take special care of Yi." Holding little Zhong Yi from Dong Shui's arms, Jiang Peihuan looked at Dong Shui and said. After the two left, Jiang Peihuan entered her own room holding the baby. Just as Jiang Peihuan was about to sit down, the baby in her arms started crying. The crying was very faint. Hearing the baby's cry, Jiang Peihuan seemed somewhat panicked. She even forgot that she could provide medical care herself and hurriedly called for Yi Xiao. "Yi Xiao, come quickly." "What's wrong, miss?" Yi Xiao was outside. Hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, she quickly entered the room. Upon hearing her voice, Jiang Peihuan spoke hurriedly. "Yi Xiao, quickly check Yi. Why is he crying? Is he uncomfortable anywhere?" Yi Xiao came forward and checked on Zhong Yi. Only then did she speak softly. "Miss, the young master doesn't seem to be uncomfortable anywhere. Then why is he constantly crying?" "This? Miss, could it be that the young master is hungry?" After a moment of silence, Yi Xiao looked at Jiang Peihuan and suggested. Hearing this, Jiang Peihuan quickly said, "Then quickly call the nanny over." As the adjacent room was not yet prepared, Jiang Peihuan asked for the nanny to be brought directly into her room. But Zhong Yi kept crying, his crying becoming more urgent and faint. Hearing this, there was a look of worry in Jiang Peihuan's eyes. Sitting up, she directly looked behind the screen and asked, "Nanny, why is the child still crying?" "Miss, the young master was born prematurely. He has no strength. He just can't suckle." Nanny's eyes were also full of sweat, but without the child's strength, she was helpless. Jiang Peihuan paused for a moment and then instructed Yi Xiao, "Prepare some sheep's milk."
"Yes."
After a while, Yi Xiao brought a bowl of sheep's milk into Jiang Peihuan's room. Jiang Peihuan personally held Zhong Yi in her arms. She then used a clean cloth to wet it with the sheep's milk and brought it to Zhong Yi's mouth. Seeing Zhong Yi stop crying, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but sigh in relief. It took Jiang Peihuan nearly an hour to feed Zhong Yi a small bowl of sheep's milk. Watching this, Dong Shui came forward. "Miss, let me hold the young master." Let E'er stay in my room for the next few days. Once E'er is used to this environment, you can take him to the next room. Yes, eldest Mississippi. Initially, Dong Shui was worried about coming to the general's mansion. But at this moment, seeing Jiang Paihuan's care for Zhong Yi, she finally felt relieved. In her previous life, Jiang Peihuan had never given birth, and she didn't realize how hard it was to raise a child. All night, every time Zhong Yi cried, Jiang Peihuan would open her eyes. By dawn, she felt even more tired than if she had been awake all night. Eldest miss, with me and Lu Er here watching the young master, why don't you get some sleep? Seeing the fatigue in Jiang Paihuan's eyes, Yu Er spoke softly. Miss, why does this young master of the Yin family need your care? Making you so tired. Lu Er, stop. Seeing Jiang Paihuan's serious face, Yu Er hurriedly spoke up. There was resentment in Lu Er's eyes, and she wanted to say something, but Jiang Peihuan had already turned her gaze to her. If you think it's tiring, you can deal with the matters of the courtyard, and let Yu Er stay up at night from now on. Miss, I didn't mean that. Hearing Jian Paihuan's words, Lu Er hurriedly knelt down, her eyes completely scarlet. Go out. Come back when you've thought it through.
Yes.
Lu Er got up and bowed, crying as she left. Seeing her leaving, Yu Er thought for a moment, then spoke softly. Miss, Lu Er also meant well. I know, but if she doesn't change her temper, it will cause big problems in the future. In her previous life, Yu Er and Lu Er died miserably because of her. So in this life, she was more tolerant of the maids around her. But tolerance is not indulgence. Because of Zhong Yi, Jiang Peihuan didn't leave the palm garden for several days. During these days, Xiao Nanyi didn't appear again, and Jiang Peihuan felt a bit unaccustomed for a while. After dinner, just as Jiang Peihuan was thinking of moving Zhong Yi next door, she heard familiar footsteps. Huan Er. Xiao Nanyi came in through the window, calling softly. But seeing the baby in Jiang Paihuan's arms, he was immediately taken aback. This baby? Where did he come from? As he spoke, Xiao Nanyi came forward and poked Zhong Yi's face. Seeing his action, Jiang Peihuan quickly retreated a couple of steps holding Zhong Yi. Why does the child look like a rat? Jiang Peihuan, Your Highness, all newborns look like this, especially since Er was premature. Upon hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, Xiao Nanyi didn't respond. But after a few seconds of silence, he suddenly turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, If it were our child, they would definitely be very attractive. Don't talk nonsense. Even though they were engaged and set to marry in a couple of months, hearing these words about having children made Jiang Peihuan feel a little flushed. She glared at Xiao Nanyi, but he didn't seem to care. Instead, he extended his hand to Jiang Peihuan. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan was puzzled. Let me hold him. Upon hearing Xiao Nanyi's words, Jiang Peihuan was surprised. Sir, do you know how to hold a baby? Even though she asked, Jiang Peihuan handed Zhong Yi over to Xiao Nanyi. Zhong Yi started crying as soon as he was passed to Xiao Nanyi. Was it because he was used to Jiang Paihuan's arms? Or because Xiao Nanyi's scent was too unfamiliar? Why is he crying? Hearing Zhong Yi's cries, Xiao Nanyi was surprised. In Jiang Paihuan's memory, she had never seen Xiao Nanyi like this. Just as she was about to find out why Zhong Yi was crying, she saw Xiao Nanyi's face change. Your Highness, you? He. Following Xiao Nanyi's gaze, Jiang Peihuan saw his wet sleeve. After a few seconds, she couldn't help but smile a little. Your Highness, Er didn't do it on purpose. Zhong Yi had stopped crying. Xiao Nanyi looked at the child in his arms, speechless. You dare to pee in my arms. I'll settle this matter with you when you grow up. Your Highness, you are the dignified King Cheng. Getting angry with a newborn is a bit petty. Upon hearing Xiao Nanyi's words, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but laugh. Seeing the smile on her face, Xiao Nanyi's expression softened. He handed Zhong Yi back to Jiang Peihuan, saying softly, Since you pleaded for him, he'll let it go. Chapter 118 I can only rely on Your Highness for this, thank you, Your Highness, Jin Peihuan said softly when she heard Xiao Nanyi's words. Knock, knock. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door.
Come in.
Zhang Peihuan thought the visitor was Yu Er, so she responded. However, when the door opened, the person who entered was Jiang Changbai. Huan Er 1. King Cheng, why are you here? Upon opening the door, Jiang Changbai saw Xiao Nani standing in the room. His instinct was to ask, but remembering his recent absence, he came to understand. Xiao Nani's daily care for the plum garden was not something Jiang Changbai hadn't heard from Deputy General Liu. Knowing that Xiao Nani left every night, he pretended not to know, turning a blind eye. So, seeing Xiao Nani now, he wasn't as upset as the first time they met. Upon seeing Jiang Changbai, Xiao Nani nodded without saying a word. However, Zhang Peihuan immediately went up to him and softly asked, Elder brother, do you need something from me? Hearing Zhang Peihuan's voice, Jiang Changbai pulled himself out of his thoughts. Xiao Nani, hearing this, said quietly, Huan Er, I should leave now. With that, Xiao Nani prepared to leave. But behind him came the voice of Jiang Changbai. Your Highness, please wait. Hearing the voice, Xiao Nani instinctively stopped, turned around, and looked at Jiang Changbai. Facing the man's puzzled gaze, Jiang Changbai spoke softly, I have a favor to ask of your Highness. After a while, the three of them sat down on the chairs in the living room. Zhongyi had already been handed over to Dong Shui. Your Highness, one heard you once dealt with King Chu Jiang before? After sitting down, Jiang Changbai looked at Xiao Nani and asked. Upon hearing this, Xiao Nani's eyes showed a hint of surprise, but he still nodded. Correct, I had contact with King Chu Jiang 3 years ago. And based on your judgment, Your Highness, what is King Chu Jiang's character like? Autocratic, domineering, and reckless. Xiao Nani spoke softly after a moment of silence. Elder brother, is there something wrong with King Chu Jiang? Zhang Peihuan, who had been sitting quietly, turned to Jiang Changbai and asked softly. It's not confirmed yet, but there are rumors that King Chu Jiang is recruiting and buying horses in Jiangzhou. Although this has not been confirmed yet, the news is true. As soon as Jiang Changbai finished speaking, Zhang Peihuan immediately interjected. At this, both Jiang Changbai and Xiao Nani turned to look at her. Facing their gazes, Zhang Peihuan paused before continuing. Jiangzhou is far from the capital. It's a place where the mountains are high and the emperor is far away. If there wasn't such a thing happening, the news wouldn't have reached the capital. So, I guess it's true. The matter of King Chu Jiang recruiting and buying horses had happened in her previous life too. King Chu Jiang, like the others, was a king of a different surname. But he was unlike Huainan King who had no real power. King Chu Jiang was a vassal king with actual military power, and Jiangzhou was rich and strong. In her previous life, when King Chu Jiang recruited and bought horses, he had rebellious intentions. By the time Emperor Qiming knew about this, King Chu Jiang's soldiers had already grown in number. Emperor Qiming immediately sent Jiang Hong to Jiangzhou. But at that time, Jiang Hong, full of depression due to the death of Jiang Changbai, was seriously injured by King Chu Jiang. Because of this, Zhang Peihuan was ridiculed by Xiao Juanhao in her previous life, and the Jiang family was scolded by Emperor Qiming. Upon hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, both Xiao Nani and Jiang Changbai showed surprise, but neither of them said anything. Instead, Xiao Nani turned to Jiang Changbai and asked directly, Does the young general wish for me to investigate this? The man spoke in affirmative, and Jiang Changbai nodded after hearing it. Looking at Xiao Nani, Jiang Changbai said directly, Originally, one planned to go to Jiangzhou myself, but my father just handed over the military token. If I go to Jiangzhou now, and the emperor finds out, it will certainly cause trouble. So, after thinking about it, I can rely on your highness for this matter. Everyone in the capital knew about Emperor Qiming's fondness for Xiao Nani. Even if Emperor Qiming knew that Xiao Nani went to Jiangzhou, he wouldn't say anything. Okay, they'll leave for Jiangzhou tonight. If there's any news, they'll send someone to report it to the general's mansion immediately. Thank you, your highness. Then he'll leave this matter to you. Originally, Jiang Changbai wanted Zhang Peihuan to invite Xiao Nani to the general's mansion for a discussion, but he didn't expect to see him at the plum garden. So he directly explained the situation. After settling this matter, Jiang Changbai left immediately. Only Xiao Nani and Zhang Peihuan remained in the living room. You go first. They spoke simultaneously, and after a moment of silence, Xiao Nani looked at Zhang Peihuan and said, Hearing his words, Zhang Peihuan softly said, "The journey to Jiangzhou may be dangerous, so please take care, Your Highness." In her previous life, there was no event of Xiao Nani going to Jiangzhou for investigation, so Zhang Peihuan didn't know if there would be danger on this trip. But thinking about Zhang Shangbai's serious expression, she could guess that this trip was definitely not simple. "Don't worry, it'll be fine, and he'll return as soon as possible. This trip to Jiangzhou will take a few days at least, maybe even more than 10 days. While I'm not in the capital, you take good care of yourself." MMM. Hearing his words, Zhang Peihuan nodded. Glancing at the outside sky, Xiao Nani didn't linger and walked straight out. But when he reached the door, the man suddenly stopped. Looking at his retreating figure, a flicker of confusion passed in Zhang Peihuan's eyes. "Your Highness, are you still?" Before she could finish her sentence, a familiar warmth enveloped her. It was Xiao Nani, reaching out and holding her tightly. "I will return as soon as possible," he whispered into her ear, then let go of her. This time, Xiao Nani really left. Watching his figure disappear into the darkness, Zhang Peihuan's eyes softened. The air was filled with a cold fragrance, the scent of Xiao Nani. "Eldest Mississippi." Hearing the voice behind her, Zhang Peihuan turned around. Seeing Yu Er bowing to her, Zhang Peihuan asked softly, "How is Yi Er?" "Eldest Miss, rest assured, young Master Yin is already sleeping peacefully. Dong Shui and the nanny can take good care of him." Upon hearing these words, Zhang Peihuan let out a sigh of relief. These past few nights taking care of Zhong Yi, she had nearly exhausted herself. That night, Zhang Peihuan had a good sleep. However, early the next morning, Zhang Peihuan woke up early because Lu Xian was returning to her house. After hearing the news, Zhang Peihuan immediately went to Lu Xiu's elegant garden, and Lu Xian had already packed her things. Seeing Zhang Peihuan, she smiled and walked over to pay respects. "Sister Zhang, thank you so much for everything." Chapter 119. The appearance of Xiao Juanhao because of the Seahawk incident. Xiao Juanhao had no time to bother about Lu Xian anymore. But considering Xiao Junhao's notorious cruelty, Zhang Peihuan still warned Lu Xian, "Xian heir, Prince Qing is not a man to be messed with. By giving this gift, the Lu family has thoroughly offended him. So, when you return, you need to finalize your marriage quickly." This was the only solution. Lu Xian clearly knew this, so she nodded when she heard Zhang Peihuan's words. After thinking, she lowered her voice and spoke to Zhang Peihuan. "Sister Zhang, to be honest, I'm going home this time to meet my cousin from my uncle's family." "Are you referring to the Gu family?" Jingdo is neither big nor small, and due to Lu Xiu's influence, Zhang Peihuan had some understanding of Liu's family relatives. But thinking of the Gu family reminded Zhang Peihuan of events from her previous life. In her previous life, Lu Xiu spent all his wealth to save Zhang Peihuan. But as the general's mansion fell, many businessmen set their sights on the Lu family, and the Gu family was one of them. Thinking about this made Zhang Peihuan frown. Seeing Lu Xian nod, she spoke softly, "Even though your marriage is urgent, there's still some time. You should discuss it with uncle and aunt." "Don't worry, Sister Zhang, I understand." Zhang Peihuan wanted to remind her again, but considering that the Gu and Lu families were after all true relatives, she closed her mouth and didn't say anything more. "Third aunt, hasn't the Lu family already started arranging a match for Xian heir? Why are you still so worried?" After sending Lu Xian away, Zhang Peihuan turned her head to see Lu Xiu's eyes filled with worry. Hearing Zhang Peihuan's words, Lu Xiu sighed deeply. The Gu family is not a good match. As the topic opened up, Lu Xiu couldn't help but continue. "The one meeting with Xian heir this time is Gu Jun. First have met him before. He seems honest and sincere, but he is too obedient to his mother. Even though she is Xian heir's aunt, once Xian heir marries over, she becomes the mother-in-law. If there are conflicts between the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law, I'm afraid Gu Jun won't be able to protect Xian heir." This was the Lu family's business, and it was not appropriate for Zhang Peihuan to comment. So, after hearing Lu Xiu's words, all she could do was offer comfort quietly. "It's just a meeting. It doesn't necessarily mean they will end up together." Zhang Peihuan thought that Xiao Juanhao, thoroughly abandoned by Emperor Qiming, had lost interest in Lu Xian, but she didn't expect that Xiao Juanhao was already waiting for her on the road. "Cousin, why have we stopped?" The carriage suddenly stopped, and Lu Xian looked outside. As she lifted the curtain, she was stunned. Not until she saw Pei Wu approaching from the opposite side did Lu Xin's eyes fill with panic. But seeing Gu Jun on horseback, she sighed in relief. What happened next, however, made Lu Xin's expression turn ugly. "Who are you? And why are you blocking our way?" Gu Jun, who was not particularly good-looking but rather decent, looked at Pei Wu approaching him and asked coldly. But Pei Wu didn't even look at Gu Jun. Instead, he turned to the carriage and said, "Miss Lu, my master His Highness wishes to see you. If Miss Lu doesn't come out voluntarily, I'm afraid he'll have to be rude." As he spoke, Pei Wu directly lifted the curtain of Lu Xin's carriage. Seeing his actions, Lu Xian was startled. She instinctively looked at Gu Jun, but Gu Jun, hearing the word His Highness, was stunned. "Cousin?" Lu Xian called out, but Gu Jun just lowered his head. Seeing this scene, Pei Wu's eyes revealed a hint of mockery. "Miss Lu, please." Sitting in the carriage, Lu Xian stared at Gu Jun, her eyes filled with disappointment. Finally, she stepped out of the carriage with a pale face. When she walked to the opposite carriage, Pei Wu opened the curtain for her. As soon as Lu Xian saw Xiao Juanhao sitting inside, she had no choice but to steel herself and get into the carriage. At this point, Xiao Juanhao directly addressed Gu Jun. "Miss Lu is the woman I fancy. If the Gu family dares to harbor any intentions, it would be an offense to my Prince Qing mansion." Seeing the undisguised murderous intent in Xiao Junhao's eyes, Gu Jun immediately dismounted from his horse and knelt on the ground. "I didn't know that my cousin Xinair was the one your highness fancied. Now you do." "Yes, I know. Your highness, rest assured, I would never harbor inappropriate thoughts towards my cousin Xinair again." Upon hearing these words, Lu Xian, who was already filled with disappointment, became even more despaired. "Let's go." "Yes, your highness." As soon as Xiao Juanhao finished speaking, Pei Wu ordered his men to drive the carriage away. Lu Xian was cowering in the corner of the carriage, staring at Xiao Juanhao who sat across from her, her eyes filled with panic. She pondered for a moment before finally gathering the courage to speak. "Your highness, you—" Before Lu Xian could finish her words, Xiao Juanhao swiftly grabbed her wrist. With a forceful pull, he pushed her to one side. "How dare you?" he said, his eyes filled with a threatening darkness. Seeing this, Lu Xian screamed in fear. "Do you think if you hide in the Jiang mansion, I can't do anything to you?" Xiao Juanhao held her chin tightly, his eyes filled with anger as he spoke. Lu Xian was so frightened, she dared not utter a word. "Now, one will personally bring you back to my mansion." After saying these words, Xiao Juanhao let go of Lu Xian, causing her to crash against the carriage. The impact made her face turn pale from pain. People always said that Xiao Juanhao was gentle. But at this moment, Lu Xian realized how misleading the rumors were. She shrank to one side, afraid to look at Xiao Juanhao again as the carriage sped away. If she were really taken to the Qing mansion, Lu Xian knew very well what awaited her. If she was really brought to the Qing mansion, Lu Xian knew very well what was waiting for her. She couldn't be taken to the Qing mansion, even if it meant death. Seeing the moving curtain of the carriage, a firm look flashed in Lu Xin's eyes. She lifted the curtain and jumped out of the moving carriage. Pei Wu quickly. Xiao Juanhao was shocked to see Lu Xian, who seemed so weak, dare to jump from the carriage. After a few seconds, he shouted to the outside. When Pei Wu saw Lu Xian jumping off, he quickly pulled the reins, so Lu Xian fell to the ground but wasn't trampled by the horses. Upon hearing Xiao Junhao's voice, Lu Xian ignored the pain in her foot and ran forward. "Your Highness, don't worry. I will capture Miss Lu immediately," said Pei Wu, as he rode his horse to chase after her. Hearing the galloping hooves behind her, Lu Xin's eyes were filled with terror. She instinctively ran towards the city's protective river. Today, even if she died, she couldn't be caught by the Prince of Qing. "Miss Lu?" Suddenly, Lu Xian heard a familiar voice. Looking up, she saw Jiang Chongbai coming towards her. Chapter 120. If I dare to marry you, will you agree? Seeing him, Lu Xin's eyes lit up with joy, but thinking of the people chasing her, she ran in a different direction. She could not implicate the Jiang family anymore. However, Jiang Changbai watched Lu Xin's retreating figure, furrowing his brow. All he saw in Lu Xin's eyes was fear. At this time, the sound of hoofbeats reached his ears, and Jiang Changbai saw Pei Wu riding towards them. Seeing him, Jiang Changbai frowned. Noticing him chasing in Lu Xin's direction, Jiang Changbai followed directly. Pei Wu was on horseback. Spotting Lu Xin's figure, he shouted loudly, "Stop!" Hearing this, Lu Xian was startled and fell to the ground. Pei Wu, seeing this scene, revealed a touch of gloominess in his eyes. He reached out, intending to pull Lu Xian onto his horse, but someone stopped him. "What do you think you're doing?" Jiang Changbai extended his hand, directly blocking Pei Wu, his eyes full of coldness. Seeing the sudden appearance of Jiang Changbai, Pei Wu frowned, while Lu Xian showed excitement. Seeing Jiang Changbai dismount, she didn't hesitate and quickly hid behind him. Watching the scene, Pei Wu darkly said, "Young general, this person is wanted by Prince Qing. As I understand it, Prince Qing has been demoted to a provincial prince by the emperor. You should change your address." As if completely disregarding the anger in Pei Wu's eyes, Jiang Changbai continued, "I have some idea of Prince Qing's plans, but a noble prince scheming against a weak woman isn't quite gentlemanly, is it? Do you intend to oppose my master, the prince? If Guard Pei insists on thinking so, then it is indeed the case." With these words, Jiang Changbai mounted his horse and extended his hand to Lu Xian. Seeing his extended hand, Lu Xian paused, and after a moment of silence, she took Jiang Shangbai's hand. With a little force, he pulled Lu Xian directly onto the horse. Letting Lu Xian sit in front of him, Jiang Changbai said to Pei Wu, "I'm taking her. If Prince Qing wants her, he can come to my mansion." Hearing this, Pei Wu prepared to unsheath his sword, but seeing his movements, Jiang Changbai scoffed, "Guard Pei, although you are a top-notch expert, you're no match for me." Leaving these words behind, Jiang Changbai rode away with Lu Xian. After a distance, Jiang Changbai slowed down. At this moment, Lu Xian looked at him and spoke, "Young Master Jiang, could you please send me back to the Lu mansion? If I send you back to the Lu mansion, Prince Qing's men will take you away immediately. But if one go to the general's mansion, it will bring trouble to the household." "No worries." Hearing Lu Xin's words, Jiang Changbai replied calmly. As they spoke, they arrived at the general's mansion. Chapter 121. Jiang Changbai gets beaten up a fight. Upon hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, a look of confusion flashed in Jiang Changbai's eyes. Observing his puzzled expression, Jiang Peihuan sighed in helplessness, "Elder brother, you spend years in the military and don't care about different in family status. But that doesn't mean our father and mother don't care." Jiang Peihuan thought even if Jiang Changbai really wanted to marry Lu Xian, he would wait a few days. However, to her surprise, her door was knocked on that very night by Yu'er. The knocking was rapid, waking Jiang Peihuan instantly. Just as she opened the door, Yu'er, with panic in her eyes, urgently spoke, "Miss, hurry to the Chrysanthemum Hall. The young master is being beaten to death." "What happened?" "I can't explain it all right now. It seems to be because of Miss Lu." Quickly throwing on a coat, Jiang Peihuan rushed towards the Chrysanthemum Hall. Just as she reached the courtyard entrance, she heard the sound of a whip striking. Her face paled, and Jiang Peihuan hastened her steps. Entering the yard, she saw Jiang Changbai kneeling in the middle of the yard, his back full of bloody whip marks. The one whipping him was none other than Deputy General Lu. Seeing this scene, Jiang Peihuan frowned. "Elder brother, what on earth is happening?" Jiang Changbai's face was somewhat pale, with a layer of sweat on his forehead. Hearing Jiang Paihuan's voice, he whispered, "I talked back to grandmother. One deserved to be punished." "Why did you talk back to grandmother for no reason?" Jiang Changbai did not respond. Not looking at him anymore, Jiang Peihuan walked straight into the house. At the door, she saw Nanny Su waiting there. Nanny Su was clearly waiting for Zhang Peihuan. Seeing her, she immediately approached. Eldest miss, please try to persuade the old madam. Nanny Su, what's going on? Sigh. Nanny Su sighed deeply, then recounted the whole incident. From her narration, Zhang Peihuan finally understood the cause. Zhang Changbai had come to greet the old Madam Zhang specially. The old madam then mentioned her niece from her maternal home, saying she was a suitable match for Zhang Changbai. Just recently, Zhang Changbai had expressed his intent to marry Lu Xian. Hearing the old Madam Zhang's words, he flatly refused. Even though the old madam was strict, she was not unreasonable. However, Zhang Changbai announced that he intended to marry Lu Xian. Upon hearing this name, the old madam was furious on the spot. Lu Xiu, when you first got involved with my third son, he refused to marry anyone but you, so I accepted it. But how dare you? How dare you let your niece marry Changbai? Don't you know that Changbai is my grandson, the eldest son of my general's mansion, and the future pillar of the general's mansion? But if we allow Deputy General Lu to continue, elder brother might really get beaten to death. Let him be beaten to death. Better than making your grandmother angry. As soon as Zhang Peihuan finished her words, Shui Yin chimed in. The old madam, who was already concerned about her eldest grandson, immediately turned to Nanny Su upon hearing the words of Shui Yin and Zhang Peihuan. Hurry, tell Deputy General Lu to stop and call for the doctor. Yes, old madam. Upon hearing the old madam's words, Nanny Su immediately ran off. Grandmother, please don't be angry. If something bad happens to you because of your anger, elder brother will really be beaten to death by father. With Zhang Peihuan soothing, the old madam calmed down a bit. Then she turned to Lu Xiu. You must send your niece away immediately. I don't want to see her in the general's mansion again, or you will have to leave with her. Mother, you, old third, if you want to anger me to death for your wife, then protect her. Before Zhang Rian could finish his words, he was interrupted by the old madam. Having said this, the old madam, with the support of Nanny Su, left the main hall. Father, mother, I'm going to check on either brother. Thinking of Zhang Shangbai's injuries, Zhang Peihuan bowed to Zhang Hong and walked out. Zhang Shangbai's courtyard was in the front yard. As Zhang Peihuan and Yu walked in, they heard Chang'an's cry. Elder young master, how did you get beaten like this? Then she sat on a stool nearby and continued speaking. I know you didn't consider all this, but all these things happened because of you. Xian heir will be sent away tonight. Elder brother, what are you doing? Seeing Zhang Changbai suddenly sit up, Zhang Peihuan quickly held him down. I need to find her. I can't let her go home just like that. Preventing her from going home. What do you intend to do? A stern voice suddenly came from the door. Zhang Peihuan turned around and saw Zhang Shangbai's parents entering the room. Father, mother. Seeing them, Zhang Peihuan quickly paid her respects. Huan heir, it's getting late. Don't stay here any longer. Go back to Palm Garden and rest. Zhang Shangbai's father, Zhang Hong, was quite gentle with his daughter. He softly addressed Zhang Peihuan. As soon as he heard this, Zhang Changbai quickly tugged at Zhang Peihuan's sleeve, pleading for help with his eyes. Seeing this, Zhang Hong glared at him, as a big brother. You can't take care of your sister, and yet you always have her worry about you. Are you not ashamed? Enough, don't say any more. Zhang Shangbai's mother, Shui Yin, was slightly upset seeing her son's injuries. Seeing Zhang Hong about to speak, she gave him a displeased look. After checking on Zhang Shangbai's wounds and finding nothing serious, Shui Yin finally addressed her son. Do you really like Lu Xian that much? Just as Zhang Changbai was about to answer, Shui Yin continued, regardless of how much you like her, you can't marry her. Mother. Hearing Shui Yin's words, surprise filled Zhang Shangbai's eyes. Not only was Zhang Changbai surprised, but Zhang Peihuan also looked shocked. In Jin Peihuan's heart, although Shui Yin was born into a prestigious family, she was very open-minded. Mother, do you also care about social status differences? After a moment of silence, Zhang Changbai looked at his mother with eyes filled with pain. At his words, Zhang Hong was about to react, but Shui Yin stopped him. Looking at Jiang Changbai, who lay on the bed, Shui Yin smiled and said, "In your eyes, is your mother that kind of person?" "Of course not." "Then why?" Jiang Changbai blurted out subconsciously, but his eyes were full of confusion. Meeting his gaze, Shui Yin spoke plainly. "There are two reasons why I'm stopping you from marrying Lu Xian. The first being your grandmother. You saw your grandmother's attitude today. If you insist on marrying Lu Xian, she might be angered to death by you. And then, there's your third aunt. How will she face your grandmother in the future? Of course, you can choose to disregard all this. But there's one thing you cannot overlook." Seeing Jiang Changbai and Jiang Peihuan both looking at her, Shui Yin continued, "The Lu family is a royal merchant family, rich enough to rival a nation. Your father just surrendered his military authority, which temporarily eased the emperor's vigilance towards us. But if you were to marry Lu Xian, what would the emperor think?" Upon hearing Shui Yan's words, both Jiang Changbai and Jiang Peihuan fell silent. Seeing that neither of them spoke, Shui Yin whispered, "Think about it carefully. If you still want to marry Lu Xian despite all this, your mother won't stop you anymore." After saying this, Shui Yin left Jiang Shangbai's room. Jiang Hong looked helplessly at his eldest son and followed Shui Yin out of the room. From the moment Shui Yin and Jiang Hong left, Jiang Changbai seemed to lose all his energy. "Elder brother?" Seeing his state, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help but call out softly, "Huan Er, I'm fine. You can go back. I'm tired and want to rest."
"Then rest early, elder brother."
After taking one last look at Jiang Changbai, Jiang Peihuan also left the room. Jiang Changbai lay on the bed and, once the footsteps outside faded away, he immediately sat up. "Young master, where are you going?" Chang'an pushed open the door just in time to see Jiang Changbai getting dressed. Full of panic, he hurriedly went over to him. But Jiang Changbai ignored him, continuing to dress. After he was dressed, he looked at Chang'an and said, "I'm going out. Don't tell anyone." Chapter 123. "You are incredibly rude, young master. Are you planning to see Miss Lu?" Although Chang'an was a servant, he had grown up with Jiang Changbai and knew his master well. "Don't tell anyone." This was a tacit agreement. Seeing Jiang Changbai heading out, Chang'an quickly said, "Young master, you're still injured. Let me accompany you." "No need." Jiang Changhua left the courtyard with those two words. By the time Chang'an tried to follow him, he was already out of sight. "Elegant garden. Aunt, it's all my fault. I've caused you trouble." Even though Lu Xiu didn't say anything, Lu Xian had already heard from the maid about what had happened in the chrysanthemum hall. Looking at Lu Xiu's red-rimmed eyes, Lu Xin's were full of guilt. When she heard her niece's words, Lu Xiu forced out a smile. "How could I blame you? It's getting late. Let's mansion to the residence early." "Xiu Air, don't worry. They'll personally send Xian Air home. Nothing will happen." Zhang Run, standing on the side, quickly interjected upon hearing Lu Xiu and Lu Xin's conversation. "Thank you, uncle." Lu Xian stepped forward and bowed respectfully to Zhang Ren. Zhang Ren quickly helped her up. An hour later, Zhang Ren left the general's mansion with Lu Xian. However, on their way, Zhang Ren suddenly drew his sword and shouted at the person behind him, "Who's there, lurking in the shadows?" "Third uncle, it's me." As Zhang Ren's voice fell, Jiang Changbai, who had been hiding in the dark, came out on his horse. Seeing him, Zhang Ren was a bit surprised. "Changbai, what are you doing here?" Jiang Changbai didn't answer. Instead, he looked towards the carriage. Upon hearing Jiang Shangbai's voice, Lu Xian, who was in the carriage, couldn't help but clench her hands. Footsteps approached the carriage, followed by the voice of Jiang Changbai outside. "Miss Lu, I have a few words to say to you. I wonder if you..." "Young Master Jiang, there's no need to say any more." Before Jiang Changbai could finish, Lu Xian interrupted him from inside the carriage. Hearing the voice from the carriage, Jiang Changbai was stunned. At this moment, Lu Xian spoke again. "Uncle, it's getting late. We should go." "Changbai, you should go back to the mansion." Zhang Ren glanced at his nephew and signaled the driver to keep going. The carriage slowly moved forward and finally stopped in front of the Lu mansion. "We're here, Xian Air." Then, the curtain of the carriage was directly lifted. After getting out of the carriage, Lu Xen bowed to Jiang Ran. Uncle, sorry for the trouble. Jiang Ran didn't have a daughter. He had a close relationship with Lu Xiao and truly loved Lu Xen. Seeing Lu Xin's pale face, he stepped forward, patted her head gently, and whispered, "Stay home and be good. If anything happens, send someone to find me at the general's mansion. XNR, remember, your aunt and I don't want you to feel estranged." "I understand, uncle." Lu Xen bowed once again. Jiang Ren glanced at her and then mounted his horse. Zhang Peihuan learned about Lu Xin's departure the next morning. She realized that her third aunt had intentionally not told her. After breakfast, Jin Peihuan decided to visit Lu Xiao in Elegant Garden. Just as she was about to leave, she saw Shui Yin approaching. "Mother, Huan heir, bring Yi heir out. What's going on?" "Your Annie Zhong wants to divorce Yin Yang, but he is unwilling. Your Annie Zhong has written to Qingzhou. Auntie Zhong parents have arrived, and Yin Yang's father has been alerted. The Yin family has sent someone to pick up Zhong Yi. Mother, let's go together. Yi heir is still young. If anything happens, Yi Xiao can help." "I was thinking the same thing. So, you're going with me to the Yin family's mansion." The general's mansion was quite a distance away from the Yin family. It was not easy to ride a horse because Zhongyi was with them. 2 hours later, Jin Peihuan and Shui Yin arrived at the Yin family's door. Just as they got out of the carriage, Zhang Peihuan saw the soldiers standing at the door. "Mother, who are these soldiers?" "They're probably brought by Uncle Zhong. Eldest miss. It seems these soldiers are under the command of young master." At this moment, Dong Shui smiled and spoke. Hearing her words, Zhang Peihuan was somewhat confused. It wasn't until she entered the Yin family's home that she understood who the young master Dong Shui mentioned was. "Zhongkai, you are being incredibly rude. I am your uncle. How dare you lay hands on me?" As Zhang Peihuan approached Zhong Ye's courtyard, she heard the sound of a fight. As she drew closer, she saw Yin Yang being embarrassingly beaten by a young boy. The boy seemed just slightly older than Zhang Songbai, yet his kung fu skills were truly exceptional. At this moment, Yin Yang was almost powerless against Zhong Kai's attacks. Hearing Yin Yang's words, the boy revealed a hint of mockery. "Lord Yin, once my aunt is divorced from you, you'll have no relations with the Yin family." "All Kai, stop." Shui Yin, witnessing the scene, quickly stepped forward. Hearing the voice, Zhong Kai instinctively halted and turned to look at Shui Yin and Zhang Peihuan. Only now did Zhang Peihuan get a good look at the young boy. He had large, captivating eyes, a handsome face, and 2 noticeable canine teeth at the corners of his mouth. Seeing Shui Yin, Zhong Kai looked slightly puzzled. After staring at her for a while, he joyfully ran towards her. "You must be Aunt Yanzi." Yanzi was Shui Yin's nickname in the Shui family. She had been friends with Zhongyu since childhood, so the Zhong family also liked to call her Yanzi. Zhong Kai had met Shui Yin when he was little. Chapter 124. The Zhong family arrives just a few seconds later. Shui Yin understood the plans of the old master and mistress of the Zhong family. Regardless, the Yin family was related to the emperor, which made it impossible for the Zhong family to directly confront them. But Zhong Kai was different. He was just a young member of the family. Even if he was impolite to Yin Yang, it could still be justified. "All Kai." At that moment, Zhong Ye's voice came from afar. Currently, Zhong Yu was still recovering from childbirth. When she saw Zhong Yu step out, supported by a maid, Shui Yin hurriedly approached. "Ah, you? Why are you out?" "That's right, Aunt. You're still recovering. You should not be out here. Please go back." When Zhong Kai saw Zhong Yu, his expression immediately became gentle. "I am fine." Facing the concern of Shui Yin and Zhong Kai, Zhong Yu whispered, then her gaze fell behind Zhang Peihuan. "Madam." Seeing Zhong Ye's expression, Dong Shui quickly brought Zhong Yi to her. Taking Zhong Yi from Dong Shui's arms, Zhong Ye's eyes filled with tears. Yin Yang, seeing all this, had a complex expression in his eyes. After a moment of thought, he stepped forward. "Zhong Yu, the child. Stop, don't come closer." Upon hearing Yin Yang's voice, Zhong Yu cut him off coldly. Staring at the man in front of her, Zhong Yu's eyes filled with coldness. "Yin Yang, I've told you. This child has nothing to do with you. Madam, what you're saying isn't right. The young master also bear the blood of the Yin family. How can he have nothing to do with his father? Hearing these words, everyone turned to look. They saw Madame Yin supporting the old Madame Yin approaching them. The old Madame Yin was wrapped in fine silk, but her face was harsh. With just one glance, Jin Peihuan looked away. Mother, why did you come here? Seeing the old Madame Yin approaching, Yin Yang quickly went to support her. Hearing Yin Yang's words, the old Madame Yin spoke coldly. If I didn't come, I'm afraid the Yin family would have been humiliated. All Qing, bring me the child. Yes, mother. Upon hearing the old Madame Yin's words, Madame Yin bowed respectfully and then walked towards Zhongyu. Madam, this is the old Madame's command. Give the child to... Ah! When Madame Yin approached, Zhongyu lifted her leg and kicked her in the stomach. Madame Yin immediately fell to the ground. All, my stomach. Lying on the ground, Madame Yin clutched her belly and wailed. Everyone watched this scene in shock. Only when they heard Madame Yin's wail did they snap back to reality. The old Madame Yin looked at Madame Yin lying on the ground, her eyes filled with gloom. She pointed at Zhongyu, her eyes full of anger. Zhongyu, do you still respect me as your mother-in-law? How dare you commit violence in front of me? Old Madam, you must be joking. I have always respected you. But Madame Yin is only a concubine and tried to take my child. Shouldn't I teach her a lesson? You. All right. If this is the case, then today I will teach you how a daughter-in-law should behave. Someone, tie Zhongyu up. Old Madame Yin, aren't you going too far? Upon hearing old Madame Yin's words, Zhong Kai immediately wanted to step forward but was held back by Shui Yin. Turning her head to look at old Madame Yin, Shui Yin spoke up with a displeased expression. Yet upon hearing her words, old Madame Yin revealed a trace of mockery in her eyes. Madame Zhang, since when has it been your place to intervene in the matters of the Yin family? The Yin family's matters may not be my concern, but my daughter from the Zhong family is not someone you can bully at will. The sound of orderly footsteps reached their ears, and Jiang Peihuan turned her head to see an elderly couple walking over. The old master was still dressed in military uniform, followed by an orderly group of soldiers. Upon seeing this, old Madame Yin showed a trace of panic in her eyes. But in Shui Yan's eyes, a hint of nostalgia was revealed. Uncle Zhong, Auntie Zhong. Old Master Zhong was already full of white hair, but he was in good spirits. The old Madame Zhong was a bit plump, but still very imposing seeing Shui Yin. The old couple showed smiles. Yin heir, you've grown up so fast. Thank you for taking care of Ayu. Auntie, you and I grew up together. It would be rude of me not to help. Old Madame Zhong smiled and did not say anything. Instead, she looked at Zhongyu with red eyes. All you, father, mother, your daughter is unfilial, causing you both to make this long journey. The trip from Qingzhou to the Jingdou would require at least 2 days of travel, even with the horse. Seeing Zhongyu kneel before them, old Madame Zhong hurriedly helped her up. Seeing her daughter's pale face, old Madame Zhong's eyes filled with tears. All you, we owe you an apology. If it wasn't for the sake of protecting the Zhong family, you wouldn't have to, mother. Zhongyu hurriedly interrupted old Madame Zhong's words. At this moment, old Master Zhong, who had been silent all this while, spoke up. We came here this time for the matter of your divorce. Since the Yin family has been treating you like this, you don't need to stay there anymore. Take the divorce letter, bring Yi and return to Qingzhou with me. Although Zhongyu had already made up her mind to divorce, she was still very worried about the Zhong family. But hearing her father's words now, her eyes were full of gratitude. She looked at old Master Zhong and bowed solemnly. Thank you, father. Everyone in the Yin family were all stunned, especially old Madame Yin. Traditionally, parents of the bride do not push for a divorce from the groom's side. At this moment, old Madame Yin, no longer afraid, turned to the Zhong family and said coldly, divorce peacefully is impossible. At most we will give you a divorce letter. Also, the child is the bloodline of my Yin family. Zhong, you can leave, but the child must stay. That's impossible. As soon as old Madame Yin's voice fell, Zhongyu spoke up. Er already bears the Zhong family name. He has no connection with the Yin family. If it wasn't for Huan and one would have already been gone. Now, Yin family want to take Er away. It's absolutely impossible. Even if one die, it won't happen. As you can see, this is the good daughter that your Zhong family has taught. She dares to defy her mother-in-law like this. As a mother-in-law, you let maids insult your daughter-in-law. You, as a person, are also not qualified to be my daughter's mother-in-law. Faced with old Madame Yin's accusation, old Madame Zhong's retorted with a cold look in her eyes. For a moment, the entire courtyard was tense. Suddenly, old Master Zhong looked at Yin Yang. Lord Yin, what do you have to say about this? Calling him Lord Yin had already made old Master Zhong's stance clear. Hearing how he addressed him, Yin Yang's eyes revealed a complicated look. He did not look at old Master Zhong or anyone else, but at Zhong Yu. After a moment of silence, he said in a low voice, "Do you really want to divorce me?" Well, go find an inn. With that, old Master Zhong prepared to mount his horse, but was stopped by Jiang Peihuan. Then, Jiang Peihuan turned to Shui Yin and said, "Mother, didn't you prepare a dowry house for me on West Street? Why not let the old master and old madam stay there? It's more comfortable than an inn. Uncle Zhong, Auntie Zhong, please stay in one of my house. The environment there is much nicer than any inn." Old Master Zhong, having spent his life in battlefield, was straightforward. After hearing Shui Yan's proposal, he immediately went with them to the house on West Street. Because the Zhong family had traveled a long way, Shui Yan didn't bother them any further. After settling them in, she took Jiang Peihuan and left. However, once they were in the carriage, Jiang Peihuan noticed that Shui Yan seemed uneasy. Thinking back to Shui Yan's conversation with old Madame Zhong, Jiang Peihuan couldn't help asking, "Mother, what's wrong? Did old Madame Zhong mention any troubles?" "It's not Auntie Zhong. It's your maternal grandmother." Maternal grandmother? Jiang Peihuan hadn't had much contact with the Shui family. She only remembered that after her family had an incident in her previous life, several of her cousins from the Shui family had visited her. "Your maternal grandmother has been ill for half a year, but she didn't let your uncle tell me." As she spoke, worry and anxiety filled Shui Yan's eyes. Seeing her mother's expression, Jiang Peihuan said gently, "Mother, why don't you go to Qingzhou to see grandmother?" "I can't. Even though your father has handed over the commander's seal, the emperor hasn't fully restored his trust in him. If I go to Qingzhou now and the emperor hears of it, he will undoubtedly suspect your father." Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan frowned. After a moment of silence, Jiang Peihuan looked at Shui Yan and said, "In that case, mother, we'll go to Qingzhou." "You?" "Yes." Nodding, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly, "I will ride there with Yi Shao and Deputy General Liu. Round trip on horseback will take about 4 days. I should be able to return in less than 10 days. Maternal grandmother has been ill for half a year without recovering. I suspect the doctors in Qingzhou have limited skills. Yi Shao is proficient in medicine. It's a good opportunity to bring her to treat grandmother." Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, Shui Yan seemed somewhat persuaded. Among all her concerns, her current most worry is for old Madame Shui's health. After a few seconds of silence, Shui Yan nodded. "All right, then you should go tomorrow." "No, mother. I'll depart tonight." Meeting Shui Yan's gaze, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly, "The sooner we leave, the sooner maternal grandmother can be treated." The mother and daughter hurried to the general's mansion. After hearing Shui Yan's words, Jiang Hong immediately nodded in agreement. Chapter 127. Lin Xingqian's past. Are you after my wealth or my life? As the man was about to strike, Jiang Peihuan said coldly. Upon hearing these words, the man paused and looked at Jiang Peihuan, retorting, "Is there a difference?" "Of course there is. If you're after money, just name a price. I won't shortchange you. If you're after my life, I have no quarrel with you. Why would you want to kill me?" Hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, the man fell silent. After a long time, He turned to Jiang Peihuan and confessed, "To be frank, I am here on someone else's orders. Turns out, the life of a general's daughter like you is quite valuable. Someone has offered 100,000 silver coins for your life. They'll give you double the price, you." It's too late. Seeing her puzzled look, the man continued, "I might be a lowly man from the streets, but one have my honor. Having accepted the money, I can't break my promise. Therefore, I will take your life today." As his words faded, he unsheathed his sword, lunging at Jiang Peihuan. Jiang Peihuan quickly swung her long whip, but the man easily evaded her and stabbed towards her heart. In desperation, Jiang Peihuan leaned back and fell off her horse. Having practiced martial arts for a long time, including her previous life, Jiang Peihuan was not to be taken lightly. Despite diligent practice since her rebirth, she was clearly outmatched. "You're no match for me," the masked man declared as they fought. Jiang Peihuan didn't respond but continued to parry his moves. Soon, Jiang Peihuan's wrist was grabbed by the man. He exerted force, and the whip in Jiang Peihuan's hand was taken away by him. This was all part of Jiang Peihuan's plan. As the man seized her whip, she pressed a ring on her finger, releasing a small blade which stabbed into the man's wrist. He reacted swiftly, but the blade still punctured his arm. With a swift strike, the man pushed Jiang Peihuan away, and she fell to the ground. "Miss?" Upon witnessing this, Yishao and Deputy General Liu were filled with worry but were too entangled to help. The man glared at his injured arm, seething with rage. "You are the first woman to ever hurt me, but today, it is your day to die." As he spoke, he pointed his sword at Jiang Peihuan's throat. Jiang Peihuan bit her lip, pondering her next move, when a crisp sound reached her ears. She looked up to see the masked man's sword was sliced in half, and a familiar figure, Xiao Nani, stood before her. Even though he had his back to her, she recognized him instantly. "Xiao Nani," Jiang Peihuan blurted out, unconsciously addressing him by name. The man turned to look at Jiang Peihuan, before turning back to engage the enemy. Seeing Xiao Nani suddenly appear, the masked man was surprised. After a few exchanges, his expression grew serious. In no time, Xiao Nanya's sword pierced the man's shoulder. He swiftly pulled off the man's mask. "You." As the mask fell, the man instinctively covered his face, but Jiang Peihuan had already seen it. She recognized the man. He was Lin Xingqian, Lin Rahai's cousin. "You dare to hurt her? You're simply tired of living." Xiao Nanya's voice trailed off as he pointed his sword at Lin Xingqian's throat, but Jiang Peihuan's voice stopped him. "Xiao Nani, wait. Huan Er, what did you just call me?" Initially, Xiao Nani thought he misheard, but now hearing Jiang Peihuan call his name again filled him with joy. However, Jiang Peihuan quickly corrected herself. "Your Highness, you, Huan Er. One hope you can call me by my name in the future." "That's not right." Before Jiang Peihuan could finish, Xiao Nani gently cut her off. Seeing the man's earnestness, a hint of helplessness crossed her eyes. "There's nothing wrong with it. You are my betrothed, and I allow you to call me by my name. Let's deal with the matter at hand first." Unwilling to argue about this, Jiang Peihuan changed the subject. Upon hearing her voice, Xiao Nani turned his gaze to Lin Xingqian. "Huan Er, do you know him?" "Indeed. He is the only legitimate son of the Lin family." "Lin Xingqian, how do you know who I am?" Not just Xiao Nani, even Lin Xingqian was surprised at Jiang Peihuan's knowledge. But Jiang Peihuan did not explain. She got to know Lin Xingqian because in her previous life, he kidnapped Lin Mengyao. This time, Xiao Juanhao personally went to rescue Lin Mengyao, even at the risk of revealing that he knew martial arts. At that time, Jiang Peihuan was worried about Xiao Juanhao, so she followed him. Now the Lin family is led by Lin Rahai, but the Lin family's initial rise was because of Lin Xingqian's grandfather. From a blood relationship perspective, Lin Rahai's line is just a side branch of the Lin family. However, the main line of the Lin family was mostly killed in battle, leaving only Lin Xingqian. To maintain his position, Lin Rahai has always wanted to kill Lin Xingqian. "I not only know who you are, but also the dispute between you and Lin Rahai, Lin Xingqian. I don't know who sent you today, but one can cooperate with you." I presume you do not wish to live like a fugitive. Are you interested in reclaiming the Lin family? Why should I trust you? Upon hearing Jiang Paihuan's words, Lin Xingqian's eyes were full of complexity. After a moment of silence, he looked at Jiang Peihuan with cold eyes. However, Jiang Peihuan already knew that the other party was moved. After glancing at Lin Xingqian, Jiang Peihuan directly said, "The enemy of the enemy is a friend. My quarrel with the Lin family is the reason. How can you help me? Can you lend me your troops?" Lin Xingqian had heard of the conflict between the general mansion and the Lin family. Looking at Lin Xingqian, Jiang Peihuan smiled. The general's mansion naturally cannot help you with troops, but you can reclaim everything that originally belonged to you. Chapter 128. Xiao Nanyas accompaniment. Jiang Peihuan continued to address Lin Xingqian. "Once see the bandits under your command train more like soldiers than bandits. Why not follow under the banner of King Cheng? With your skills, making great achievements is only a matter of time. Once you've proven yourself in battle, you can return to the Lin family and reclaim all you've lost with honor."
Moreover, it's such a waste for a distinguished family's young master like you to become an outlaw.
"I don't believe in a free lunch in this world. Miss Jiang, what's your purpose in helping me?" "It's simple. First, tell me who wants to kill me. Second, helping you does no good for the Lin family, but it does help my general's mansion. Third, you have natural talent for leadership. It's a pity if your abilities aren't utilized on the battlefield." While Jiang Peihuan and Lin Xingqian spoke, Xiao Nani remained silent. However, when Lin Xingqian turned to him, Xiao Nani calmly said, "You hurt my future queen. For that you must die. But since Huan Er said that you are a born military genius, then for the sake of Qi Kingdom's people, I will give you a chance." Lin Xingqian might not trust Jiang Peihuan, but he trusted Xiao Nani. After hearing his words, Lin Xingqian knelt on one knee and bowed to Xiao Nani. "Greetings, Your Highness." Then, Lin Xingqian looked back at Jiang Peihuan. "The one who sent me today is Prince Qing." "Xiao Juanhao?" "The man didn't reveal his identity when he left, but I followed him and saw him enter Prince Qing's mansion." Upon hearing this, Jiang Peihuan became more certain of her thoughts. Lin Xingqian is not only a martial arts expert, but also a thoughtful person. Such a person would undoubtedly be a strong warrior on the battlefield. In her previous life, Xiao Juanhao spared Lin Xingqian's life, and later, Lin Xingqian fought for him and made numerous military achievements. In this life, Jiang Peihuan wants to send Lin Xingqian into Xiao Nanyas' hands. "I will settle this score with him later." Upon hearing the name Xiao Juanhao, Xiao Nanyas' eyes darkened. Then, Xiao Nani gave Lin Xingqian a token. "Take my token and go directly to the Xiaoqi camp. They will arrange everything for you when they see the token." "Yes, Your Highness." Lin Xingqian is a straightforward person. Once he has made up his mind, he is very obedient. Holding the token given by Xiao Nani, he left with his men. After they left, Jiang Peihuan turned to the man beside her. "Didn't you go to Jiangzhou? Why did you come here?" "I received a letter from Han Feng saying you were going to Qingzhou. And district is a must-pass route to Qingzhou, so one rushed over here hoping to run into you. What if we had just missed each other?" Yishao was holding a large bundle of firewood in her hands, while Deputy General Liu was carrying 2 cleaned fish. Once they sat down, Vice General Liu said softly, "Miss, Your Highness, there aren't many wild animals in this area, so we only managed to catch these 2 fish. Please make do with these." "It's okay. These 2 fish are quite big, enough for the 4 of us." After looking at the fish in Deputy General Liu's hands, Jiang Peihuan spoke softly. Each fish weighed 3 catties. Yishao quickly lit the fire. Deputy General Liu set up the rack, and then the fish were placed on the fire to roast. Initially, both fish were in Deputy General Liu's hands, but suddenly Xiao Nani stretched out his hand. "Give me one." "Your Highness, I will. I'll roast the one Huan Er is going to eat." Upon hearing these words, Deputy General Liu didn't persist and handed the larger one to Xiao Nani. Xiao Nanyes' movements were very skilled, which didn't surprise Zhang Peihuan. Others might not know, but she was well aware. When Xiao Nani fought in the war, he basically lived and ate with the soldiers, so it was very normal for him to know how to roast a fish. An hour later, Xiao Nani cut a piece of fish with a dagger and handed it to Jian Peihuan. Huan Air, try it. Chapter 129. Arriving at Qingzhou, he cut a slice from the back of the fish, a piece with no bones. Zhang Peihuan took it from the Xiao Nanyes hand and tasted it gently. How does it taste? It's good. There wasn't any flavor other than the fish itself, but the fish was quite fresh, so it tasted pretty nice. Hearing Jian Peihuan's words, Xiao Nani smiled and continued to cut the fish. After eating several pieces, Zhang Peihuan looked at Xiao Nani and said, I'm full now. You should eat some too. Hearing Zhang Peihuan say she was full, Xiao Nani put his knife away. He was less meticulous when he ate, simply bringing the fish to his mouth. After chewing off the flesh, he tossed the fish bones into the fire. There was something charmingly ordinary about Xiao Nani in that moment. When he had thrown away the fish bones, Zhang Peihuan handed him her handkerchief. Looking at his puzzled expression, Zhang Peihuan said softly, Your hands are greasy. Wipe them. The man smiled, accepted the handkerchief from Zhang Peihuan, and wiped his hands. But instead of returning the handkerchief, Xiao Nani tucked it into his own sleeve. Witnessing this, Yi Xiao and Deputy General Liu, who were on the other side, were full of surprise. What are you looking at? Suddenly, a cold gaze fell on them. Facing Xiao Nanyes' unemotional look, Yi Xiao and Deputy General Liu hurriedly averted their eyes. That night, they all slept a while in the temple. In the early morning, when the sky was just beginning to lighten, Zhang Peihuan opened her eyes. As soon as she woke, she noticed that the coat she was wearing was Xiao Nanyes. Turning her head, she found Xiao Nani was not there. Eldest miss, you're awake? Yi Xiao sat across from Zhang Peihuan, and when she saw her open her eyes, she quickly said. At this time, Zhang Peihuan noticed that Deputy General Liu was also gone. Looking at Yi Xiao, she asked softly, Where's Xiao Nani? His Highness went out with Deputy General Liu, saying they would find something for you to eat. Huan Air, you're awake? Before Yi Xiao could finish speaking, Zhang Peihuan saw Xiao Nani approaching. He was only wearing a thin shirt, and his sleeves were a bit wet. Deputy General Liu followed behind Xiao Nani carrying 2 wild chickens in his hands. Seeing the 2 wild chickens, Zhang Peihuan's eyes showed a touch of surprise. Eldest miss, His Highness' airwalk skill is truly extraordinary. These 2 wild chickens were caught by him. Enough, go clean them up. Seeing Deputy General Liu about to say something more, Xiao Nani spoke directly. Seeing this, Yi Xiao quickly said, Give them to me. I'll take them outside and clean them. It's fine. You stay with the eldest miss. It'll be done soon. Chapter 130. It's not illness, it's poisoning, Huan. Are you Huan Air? Old Madame Shui appeared weak, but her eyes lit up with excitement as she looked at the person brought before her by Shui Qi. As she spoke, tears rolled down old Madame Shui's cheeks. Zhang Peihuan hadn't seen old Madame Shui for a long time, but seeing the old woman's tears made her heart feel hot. Stepping forward, Zhang Peihuan knelt down. Huan Air greets grandmother. Yungue, quick, help Huan Air up. Seeing Zhang Peihuan kowtowing before her, old Madame Shui quickly ordered the person beside her. Grandmother, one brought you this gift to make you happy. If I made you sad, that would be my fault. My elder brothers will punish me when they arrive. You indeed need a lesson. As soon as Shui Qi finished speaking, a clear male voice sounded from outside. Zhang Peihuan turned her head and saw a scholarly young man enter the room. This was Shui Tao's eldest son, Shuiji. Second brother, I heard our cousin Huan is here. Where is she? A young man in a green shirt appeared behind Shuiji. This was Shui Tao's second son, Shuizhan. You guys, don't scare Huan Air. Old Madame Shui, seeing the 3 young men, her eyes filled with smiles. When her gaze landed on Jiang Peihuan, her smile deepened. Reaching out and holding Jiang Peihuan's hand, the old madam began, "Huan Er, these are, grandmother. There's no need for introductions. I know them." Saying this, Jiang Peihuan stepped forward and greeted softly, "Huan Er greets Cousin Ji, Cousin Zhan." Seeing Jiang Peihuan correctly say their names, both Shueji and Shuezhan looked surprised. Beside them, Shueqi asked directly, "Huan Er, how can you call us accurately? Cousin Qi, have you forgotten? When one was a child, I stayed here with my mother for half a month. But you were just a few years old then. This shows that our Huan Er is talented and smart." Cough, cough, cough. Hearing the laughter of everyone, old Madame Shue's eyes were filled with joy. But her emotions stirred, and she began to cough. "Old Madam, are you all right?" Yun Gue, an elderly servant next to her, quickly came to pat her back when she saw old Madame Shui coughing. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan quickly said, "Grandmother, one came here after hearing from the old Madame Zhong that you are not well. I have a servant girl whose medical skills are outstanding. Grandmother, could you let her examine you?" That old woman, I told her not to tell Shui Yin, but she still said it. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's words, old Madame Shui laughed and said. She then turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, "Huan Er, don't listen to their nonsense. I'm fine. It's just cough, cough." Before she could finish, the old madam started coughing again. Seeing this, Jiang Peihuan quickly said, "Grandmother, please let Yishao have a look." "Fine, then let her take a look at me." Old Madame Shui had seen countless doctors in the past half a year and had given up hope for her health. However, not wanting to disappoint Jiang Peihuan, she nodded in agreement. Seeing the old madam nodding, Jiang Peihuan called out softly, "Yishao, come in." Yishao was waiting outside the door. Upon hearing Jiang Peihuan's voice, she immediately entered. "Yishao, come and take Grandma's pulse." "Yes, eldest Mississippi." Yishao bowed to everyone in the room, then approached old Madame Shui, reaching out to take her pulse. Usually, it only took a moment to take her pulse, but this time, Yishao took half a time before releasing old Madame Shui's hand. Everyone from the Shui family looked worried. Shueqi broke the silence. "Yishao, is my grandmother sick?" Yishao stood up and addressed Jiang Peihuan and the Shui family. "Eldest Miss, gentlemen, old Madame Shui is not sick. She is poisoned." "Poisoned? How could she be poisoned out of the blue?" Upon hearing Yishao's words, everyone in the Shui family changed their expressions. Shuezhan was the first to react. "I'm going to inform our parents right now." "Cousin Zhan, wait." As Shuezhan prepared to leave, Jiang Peihuan quickly spoke up, causing Shuezhan to stop and look at her. Facing Shuezhan's puzzled expression, Jiang Peihuan said quietly, "Cousin Zhan, the people around grandmother are all close to her. Even her food and drink are carefully managed. If she is poisoned, one fear the poisoner may be someone from within the house. Therefore, I think it's best not to spread this news until the poison is neutralized." "Huan Er, you mean to say that the person who poisoned our grandmother is someone from our house?" At this point, Shueji looked at Jiang Peihuan and spoke. Jiang Peihuan nodded in agreement, but said nothing. The room fell silent. After a long while, old Madame Shui looked at her grandsons and said, "You boys, handle this according to what Huan Er has said. No one must know about this, not even your parents." "Yes, grandmother." Shueji, Shueqi, and the others had been raised by old Madame Shui since they were children, so they respected and listened to her. "Yishao, do you know what poison our grandmother has been given? Can it be cured?" "Don't worry, eldest miss, the poison can be cured." Seeing that old Madame Shui was looking tired, Jiang Peihuan suggested she take a rest. After they had left old Madame Shui's courtyard, Yishao turned to Jiang Peihuan and said, "Eldest miss, after the poison in the old madam's body is removed, she will still need a period of rest. Therefore, 1 am afraid we may need to stay in Qingzhou for half a month." "That's fine. One will write to my mother and inform her of the situation here with my grandmother. Huan Er, they'll walk you back to your room."